Chapter 28-22. Father, are you ready? In a secluded room, Bailey Hongzhuang gazed at Lan Yunxiao. Her ink-black phoenix eyes flickered with a serious light. Today was the day she would help Lan Yunxiao fuse with a rainbow pearl. Lan Yunxiao nodded with a serious expression. I'm ready. In order to be able to fuse with the rainbow god bead, Bailey Hongzhuang had done many experiments these days to ensure that Lan Yunxiao would be able to successfully fuse with it. When Bailey Hongzhuang fused with the rainbow pearl, her cultivation was still very low. Lan Yunxiao's current state was undoubtedly much stronger than before. Although Bailey Hongzhuang's current cultivation couldn't compare to Yulin Feng's, it was enough for her to fuse with the rainbow pearl. This process is very painful. Father, you must be mentally prepared. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but remind him again. Seeing the worry on Bailey Hongzhuang's face, Lan Yunxiao chuckled. Silly girl, do you think the pain I've endured these past few years isn't enough? Don't worry, your father's will is very firm. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang froze for a moment, the smile on her face widening. Lan Yunxiao was her father. If she could endure it back then, Lan Yunxiao would only be stronger than her. Then I'll begin, Bailey Hongzhuang said solemnly. Come. Outside the room, Siti Yin, Mu Jintze, Lan Hongtai, Mu Lingbing, Deep Beichun, and Mo Yunjue were all gathered together, nervously looking at the closed door. The risk of fusing with the rainbow pearl wasn't small. Although Bailey Hongzhuang spoke with great confidence, everyone couldn't help but worry, because if they failed, they wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. Mu Lingbing's fingers were intertwined as she bit her red lips. The worry on her face couldn't be more obvious. Situ Yin and Mu Jintze didn't say anything and just stood there quietly. However, from their gazes, it was clear that they were also worried. Lan Hongtai, on the other hand, was pacing back and forth, using this method to release the tension in his heart. He had already lost Lan Yunxiao once. If something unexpected happened, he wouldn't be able to take another blow. In comparison, Di Beichun and Mo Yunjue were slightly calmer. They both knew that if Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't completely confident, she wouldn't have done this. After being together for so long, they had an indescribable trust in Bailey Hongzhuang. On this day, although the elders of the Lan family did not come, they were also nervous because this was related to the future of the Lan family. The fusion took a long time. Everyone could only roughly judge the situation in the room by the energy coming out of the room, but no one knew how it was progressing. Inside the room, Bailey Hongzhuang was also anxiously carrying out everything. Fortunately, Lan Yunxiao had absolute trust in him, so nothing went wrong during the fusion process. This fusion took a full 7 days. For 7 days, Lan Hongtai and the rest stood guard outside the room, never leaving. The more time passed, the more worried everyone became because they could no longer sense any fluctuations in the room. Mu Lingbing couldn't help but take a deep breath to relieve the pressure in her heart. She muttered to herself, "It's been so many days. Nothing should happen, right?" Mu Jintze placed a hand on Mu Lingbing's shoulder and comforted her. "Don't worry, nothing will happen." Chapter 28-23. Just when everyone was feeling uneasy, there was a sudden movement in the house. Everyone's eyes looked towards the house at the first moment, and their expressions revealed a bit of nervousness. The surroundings seemed to fall into silence in an instant. Everyone could hear the heavy breathing of Mu Lingbing and the rest. Everyone's gaze was fixed on the room, afraid that they would miss something. A moment later, the tightly shut door suddenly opened. Bailey Hongzhuang was the first to walk out. Looking at the nervous crowd outside, she revealed a smile. The originally nervous crowd couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief when they saw the smile on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. Mu Lingbing's mind was stretched taut like a string, and she finally relaxed, her whole body somewhat unsteady. Mu Jintze's eyes were sharp and her hands were nimble. She immediately supported Mu Lingbing, but Mu Lingbing shook her head, indicating that she didn't need to worry. After Bailey Hongzhuang walked out, everyone couldn't help but look behind Bailey Hongzhuang, but they didn't see Lan Yunxiao's figure. Immediately, Doubt appeared on the faces of the people who had originally heaved a sigh of relief. "Yixuan, where's your father?" Lan Hongdai asked. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faint smile, her expression light. "Don't worry. Father has already successfully merged with the Rainbow Pearl. The Pearl's power is very strong. Father is currently in the process of breaking through. Once he succeeds, he will naturally come out." Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone finally sighed in relief. Joyful smiles surfaced on their faces. This was truly delightful news. Now we can be at ease. Mu Jins looked at Mu Lingbing beside her. Among all of them, Mu Lingbing was the most nervous. This daughter of hers was also infatuated with love like her. It was a good thing that Lan Yunxiao had always treated her well. Mu Lingbing nodded. She seemed to have guessed Mu Jin's thoughts. Mu Lingbing was a little embarrassed. She was indeed a little too nervous. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze swept across everyone. From their mental state, she could guess that they had been guarding outside the house for the past 7 days and had never left. We can rest assured now. Everyone, go back and rest. Once Father has completed his breakthrough, he will naturally come out. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Although everyone in front of her was tired, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a strong sense of kinship. Everyone in front of her was her family. "Yixuan, you've been working the hardest these days. Hurry up and go back to rest." Mu Jins did not overlook the exhaustion on Bailey Hongzhuang's face. She had helped to market the fusion of the Rainbow God Bead, so the consumption was definitely not small. "That's right. Hurry up and go back to rest. Have a good rest," everyone said with concern. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and did not refuse. Her consumption these past few days was not small. If she hadn't successfully broken through to the Purple Realm, it would have been very difficult to help Lan Yunxiao complete the fusion. Di Beichun quickly walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side and reached out to support Bailey Hongzhuang's slender waist. "I'll send Hongzhuang back to rest first." Everyone nodded, their faces filled with concern for Bailey Hongzhuang. Mo Yunjue also followed Di Beichun to send Bailey Hongzhuang back. The two of them could sense that Bailey Hongzhuang's aura was very weak. It was clear that the fusion had consumed a lot of her energy. Chapter 28-24. Controlling the fusion of the Rainbow Pearl consumed my Yuan power and mental strength. My condition is a little bad, but I'll be able to recover in a few days. Don't worry about me. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was gentle. Although her complexion was somewhat pale, her eyes were gentle. "Yunjue, it must have been hard on you to guard outside my room these past few days. Now that I'm fine, you should have a good rest too." Bailey Hongzhuang had always felt somewhat apologetic towards Mo Yunjue because she was unable to repay his kindness. However, she also understood that if she directly rejected him, it would hurt Mo Yunjue's heart even more. Thus, she could only interact with him as a friend. Mo Yunjue had long understood the current way of getting along with Bailey Hongzhuang, but he was also very happy that Bailey Hongzhuang had already regarded him as a relative. In any case, the relationship between them was relatively close. Compared to disappearing in Bailey Hongzhuang's world, he wanted to accompany Bailey Hongzhuang in this way. "Then I'll go back first. You guys should rest early too." Di Beichun nodded. All right. As the time he spent with Mo Yunjue increased, Di Beichun and Mo Yunjue began to appreciate each other. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang, the two of them would have become good friends. Not long after Bailey Hongzhuang returned to her room, they felt a tyrannical aura erupt from Lan Yunxiao's room. It was obvious that he had successfully broken through. Lan Yunxiao's breakthrough took an entire 7 days. During this period of time, the entire Lan family had learned of this news and were all overjoyed. The changes in the Lan family quickly spread throughout the entire Shangxian continent, shocking everyone. All these years, the Lan family's position in the aristocratic families had always been very stable, and there had never been any changes. Unexpectedly, just when everyone was certain that Lan Qingyan would become the head of the Lan family, such an unforeseen event occurred. At the same time, the shocking secret from 19 years ago was exposed. In an instant, everyone understood the grudges between Lan Jingquang and Lan Yunxiao. They were extremely shocked by Bailey Hongzhuang's sudden appearance. During the Battle of Zhuolu, Bailey Hongzhuang's name had already resounded throughout the Shangxian continent. Following the appearance of this secret, everyone knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's true background was so valiant, and her forbearance and sacrifice all these years was even more shocking. Many youths immediately idolized Bailey Hongzhuang because the changes she experienced over the years were absolutely a legend. Lan Jingquang had controlled the Lan family for so many years, but who would have thought that he would completely lose his position in such a short period of time? Even the famous genius Lan Qingyan had fallen just like that. It was truly lamentable. Those who originally wanted to take advantage of the Lan family's internal strife to do something to the Lan family completely gave up on this idea when they found out that the Lan family's in-laws were actually the Tiangang sect and the Sun Moon Palace. Once these three colossi joined forces, in addition to the Limitless Palace, they were simply the four giants of the Shangxian continent. Who would dare to offend them? Following this unforeseen event, the entire Shangxian continent's top forces changed. Chapter 28-25. After successfully merging with the Rainbow Pearl, Lan Yunxiao had broken through from the 7th level of the Purple Realm to the 9th level, becoming the Lan family's #1 expert. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were pleasantly surprised by Lan Yunxiao's advancement. After reaching the Purple Realm, each level required a long time. They didn't expect that Lan Yunxiao would directly advance 2 levels after successfully merging with the Rainbow Pearl. This was truly a pleasant surprise. Thus, Lan Yunxiao was more than suitable to become the patriarch of the Nan family. When Lan Jingquang found out that Lan Yunxiao had fused with the Rainbow God Pearl, he also collapsed. He had taken the Rainbow God Pearl from Bailey Hongzhuang's body and given it to Lan Qingyan for so many years. Who would have thought that in the end, it was used as a dowry for Lan Yunxiao? The Rainbow Pearl had been cultivated in Lan Qingyan's body for so long to reach its current level of energy. He didn't expect that it would all fall into Lan Yunxiao's hands. This feeling of going for wool and coming home shorn was the most unbearable. Lan Jingquang, you didn't expect that after 19 years, I would still win. Lan Yunxiao's gaze was calm and indifferent as he looked at Lan Jingquang. From the latter's furious gaze, he could see the intense hatred and unwillingness. He wasn't unfamiliar with this gaze. In fact, he had been looking at Lan Jingquang with this gaze all these years. And now, as he looked at Lan Jingquang in the dungeon, he sighed in his heart. However, he felt even more pleasure. Lan Yunxiao, if I knew this would happen, I would have cut the weeds and eliminated the roots. Hearing Lan Jingquang's words, Lan Yunxiao chuckled. All these years, I also hoped that you would give me a quick death. You were the one who said you would make me beg for death. More than 10 years of torture is far more terrifying than death. I think you're right, because you're going to experience that feeling soon. Nan Yunxiao's gaze suddenly turned sinister with a faint, ominous glint. I will return to you double what you gave me. If you have the ability, then make a move on me right now. Lan Jingquang spat. If possible, he wanted nothing more than to die right now. This feeling of being humiliated was driving him crazy. Most importantly, the person who was humiliating him was Lan Yunxiao. Don't worry. The torture you deserve will come sooner or later. When I become the Lan family's patriarch, it will be the beginning of your suffering. Lan Yunxiao's usual elegance had long disappeared and was replaced by intense hatred. In the past, it was because he had tolerated Lan Jingquang that his wife and daughter were treated like this. Now, he would not make the same mistake again. In order to face the suffering they had suffered all these years, for the strong hatred in his heart all these years, for his constant desire for revenge, he would attach all of this to Lan Jingquang and Yumanlan. You said I'm cruel, but aren't your methods despicable? Lan Jingquang's eyes reddened. If word of what you've done spreads, do you think they'll still think of you as the elegant Lan Yunxiao? Lan Yunxiao shook his head. You don't need to provoke me. I've absorbed all your experience over the years. I definitely won't have the chance to let you appear before the world again. Tomorrow is the day I take over the position of patriarch. If there is a chance, I will let you witness it with your own eyes. Chapter 28-26. Watching Lan Yunxiao's departing figure, Lan Jingquang sat on the ground as if he had lost all his strength. His eyes were vacant and defeated. Jingquang, what should we do now? Yu Manlan had long been flustered. She had been looking forward to Lan Yunxiao and the others not punishing them for the past few days. A gentleman like Lan Yunxiao might just let them go like this. However, Lan Yunxiao's words today made her realize that it was just her wishful thinking. They didn't deal with them because they didn't have the time. Once the Lan family's matter was settled, their pain would come. Lan Jingquang flung away Yu Manlan's arm that was supporting him. His eyes were bloodshot like an angry lion. You're asking me what to do? There's no other choice but to wait for death. If we can die during this time, it'll be the best outcome. Otherwise, we'll have to spend the rest of our lives like Lan Yunxiao and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang was truly ruthless. She had already crippled their cultivation, leaving them no chance to resist. Right now, they were already in a situation where they could neither live nor die. Yu Manlan shivered and her face turned deathly pale. As the instigator, she knew all too well what kind of torment Lan Yunxiao and Lan Yunxiao had endured. If all of this happened to her, she definitely wouldn't be able to bear it. No, I don't want that. Yu Manlan sat on the ground and wailed without a care for her image. She was the eldest miss of the Yu family, the madam of the Lan family. But now the Yu family was gone, and they had no status in the Lan family. Why did she let herself become so miserable? Lan Yunxiao walked out of the dungeon and heard the cries. His eyes were still cold and heartless. With a wave of his hand, the sound from the dungeon was completely cut off. Whoever dared to make his wife and daughter suffer for so many years, he would definitely make them regret their actions. The Lan family was currently in full swing, preparing for Lan Yunxiao's conferring ceremony. Compared to the previous ceremony, the Lan family was undoubtedly happier this time. Most importantly, they didn't have to worry about any unforeseen events. With such a new home, everyone was filled with confidence for the Lan family's future. At this moment, the entire Lan family was thriving. It was as if the sky had cleared up after the rain. All the haze from before had disappeared. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others received a message. There were guests. After hearing the servant's announcement, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but look at each other with a trace of doubt in their eyes. What kind of guest would come at such a time? When Bailey Hongzhuang and her entourage arrived at the Lan family's door, two familiar figures appeared in their line of sight. Master, Mistress. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the two people in front of her in surprise. She did not expect that her master and his wife would come at this time. Hongzhuang. Nangong Wu's face was full of smiles, and she immediately walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. Mistress, I didn't expect you to come. This is truly a pleasant surprise. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't conceal the pleasant surprise on her elegant face. She originally thought that her master and mistress would never set foot in the Lan family again. Chapter 28-27. Linfeng, I didn't expect you to come. Lan Yunxiao looked deeply at Yu Linfeng. Others didn't know what happened back then, but he was very clear about it. The Lan family was probably the place Yu Linfeng didn't want to face the most. Yu Linfeng smiled faintly. I heard that tomorrow is the day you become the head of the Lan family. As a good brother, I naturally came to congratulate you. But I hated the Lan family in the past, but this is your Lan family now, so it's different. With you and Hongzhuang here, I'm afraid I can't avoid dealing with the Lan family in the future. Yu Linfeng's smile was like a spring breeze, and his posture was free and easy. As a good brother, Lan Yunxiao could naturally see that Yu Linfeng wasn't pretending to be free and easy. He was truly indifferent. Thank you, brother. Lan Yunxiao hugged Yu Linfeng. He understood the humiliation Yu Linfeng suffered back then, and Yu Linfeng was willing to let go of this hatred entirely because of him and Hongzhuang. Just this point alone was enough to see Yu Linfeng's sincerity. Hongzhuang, I heard the news when I was at Wuji Palace. I have to say, you really did well. Nangong Wu's eyes were filled with excitement. It's a pity I didn't get to see it with my own eyes, but just hearing about it is enough to make me happy. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. That's because grandfather has always supported us. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been easy to go against the entire Lan family. Everyone, quickly come in and take a seat, Mu Lingbing said with a smile. Lan Hongtai and the others were very surprised when they heard that Lan Yunxiao's friend had come. They all walked towards the Lan family's entrance, wanting to know who the guest was. It was just that when Lan Hongtai and the rest saw Yu Linfeng, all of their expressions froze. Although that familiar face had lost its youthfulness and arrogance, they still recognized him at a glance. Junshun? Lan Hongtai looked at Yu Linfeng in astonishment, his eyes filled with astonishment. After Lan Junshun left, he had never seen the former again. He didn't expect to see the former again today. After Yu Linfeng saw Lan Hongtai, his bright eyes dimmed for a moment before returning to normal. However, there was still a sense of alienation on his face. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other. It seemed that Yu Linfeng's previous name was Lan Junshun. Lan Borong stared at Lan Junshun in a daze. His usually calm face was now filled with complicated emotions, and his hands were trembling slightly. Junshun, Yu Linfeng's handsome face turned cold. I'm not Junshun, I'm Yu Linfeng. As soon as these words came out, Lan Borong and the others were all stunned. They quickly thought of Yu Linfeng's name in their minds, and their expressions couldn't help but change. Limitless Palace Master, Yu Linfeng, that's right. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the slightly awkward and strange atmosphere in front of her and couldn't help but say, "This is my master." Lan Hongtai and the others still had strange expressions, but they nodded stiffly. So it's Palace Master Yu. I've long heard of your great name. The coldness on Yu Linfeng's face dissipated slightly. His gaze swept past Lan Borong and the others before turning to Lan Yunxiao. Chapter 28-28. Lan Yunxiao led Yu Linfeng and the others to his residence, while Lan Hongtai and the others stopped in their tracks. Watching Yu Linfeng's departing figure, Lan Hongtai and the others looked at each other with unconcealable shock in their eyes. Wuji Palace's palace master is actually Junshun. Lan Hongtai couldn't help but exclaim in astonishment. This news was simply too shocking. No wonder Wuji Palace rejected us so bluntly when we expressed our goodwill. So this was the problem. I didn't expect this child's cultivation talent to be so strong. Back then, alas, all the elders sighed and couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. Life's fate was truly complicated. They had long heard about the establishment of Wuji Palace and Yu Linfeng's legendary life, but they didn't expect such an outstanding palace master to be a member of their Lan family. Such a talented person had left the Lan family just like that. Speaking of which, they had truly let down this child. Lan Hongtai patted Lan Borong's shoulder and said, "No matter what, it's a good thing to be able to see him again." Lan Borong's expression stiffened. Yu Linfeng's appearance had truly given him too much of a shock. For a moment, he couldn't return to his senses. After regaining his senses, his mood was extremely complicated. There was excitement and guilt. Just like how Lan Hongtai had always felt sorry for Lan Yunxiao's family. The person he, Lan Borong, owed the most in his life was Lan Junshun. After Bailey Hongzhuang walked for a while, she couldn't help but look back at Lan Borong and the others who were still in the same place. If she didn't guess wrong, the person who was related to Master should be the Great Elder. "Master, do you think your Master and First Elder look alike?" Xiao He asked. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly as Yu Linfeng and Lan Borong's faces appeared in her mind. Her tone was uncertain as she said, "They don't look alike, but if you think about it carefully, they do. Not everyone looked like their parents, but from their silhouettes, one could vaguely see some similarities." "Could it be? We can't say for sure, but we'll know sooner or later," Bailey Hongzhuang said. She didn't know what Yu Linfeng had experienced in the Lan family, but she was certain it wasn't a happy memory. However, if Yu Linfeng was really related to First Elder, then with First's identity and status, he shouldn't let Yu Linfeng suffer. Inside the room, Lan Yunxiao and the others were happily gathered together. They exchanged pleasantries and congratulated each other. After lunch, Lan Borong suddenly came. The moment Lan Borong appeared, Yu Linfeng's face darkened once more. I've come to disturb you. Lan Borong had an awkward smile on his face, but his gaze could not help but fall on Yu Linfeng. Lan's eyes nodded Lan's S's. Lan Yinxiao nodded. He wasn't surprised by Lan Borong's appearance. Nangongwu also looked at Lan Borong in confusion. She had some understanding of Lan Yinxiao's past, but now it seemed she only knew a part of it. At the very least, everyone present could see the special relationship between Lan Borong and Lan Yinxiao. Then let's go out first, Lan Yinxiao said. Chapter 28-29. However, Yu Linfeng coldly said, I have nothing to say to you. As soon as these words came out, Lan Borong's expression couldn't help but stiffen, and the awkwardness and stiffness on his face became even more intense. Junshun, my name is Yu Linfeng. I'm afraid head elder has mistaken me for someone else. Yu Linfeng coldly said. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others couldn't help but stop in their tracks, their eyes turning to Lan Yinxiao. Lan Yinxiao nodded at everyone, indicating that they should leave together. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others no longer hesitated and walked out of the house, leaving space for Lan Borong. After leaving the room, Nangongwu frowned and asked, What's the relationship between Linfeng and your Lan family's head elder? It seems like there are many things that I don't know. You don't know either? Lan Yinxiao was a little surprised, but the sigh in his eyes deepened. It seemed like the knot in Yu Linfeng's heart was deeper than he had imagined. I only know that the Lan family suspects Linfeng's bloodline, and everyone ostracizes him, saying that he's not a member of the Lan family. That's why he left the Lan family. Isn't that the case? Nangongwu's expression revealed some worry. This was the answer that Yu Linfeng had given her when she asked Yu Linfeng. Could it be that Yu Linfeng didn't tell her the truth? Lan Yinxiao nodded. You're right. That's how it is, but it's a little more complicated. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen couldn't help but look at each other. They finally understood why Yu Linfeng loathed the Lan family so much. Suspecting his bloodline meant suspecting Yu Linfeng's identity and even questioning Yu Linfeng's parents. If it was anyone else, they wouldn't be able to accept it. Yin Xiao, tell me everything in detail. I don't want Linfeng to always keep this matter in his heart. At least after knowing it, I can help him resolve some of it. Nangongwu pleaded with Lan Yinxiao. All these years, Yu Linfeng had been tight-lipped about this matter. Because she didn't know enough about this matter, she couldn't say anything to comfort him. In fact, she had always known that Yu Linfeng did not want to hide it from her, but it was too difficult to say. Since they were already at the Lan family, it was naturally impossible to continue hiding this matter. It was better to understand it as soon as possible. She also wanted to help Yu Linfeng untie the knot in his heart. For such a long time, Yu Linfeng had never been truly happy because of this matter. She hoped that Yu Linfeng could be truly happy. Opening up the knot in his heart was the only way. Hearing Nangongwu's words, a trace of hesitation flashed across Lan Yinxiao's face. He had never spoken of this matter because he didn't want to divulge Yu Linfeng's privacy. After all, this matter was Yu Linfeng's own matter, so it wasn't appropriate for him to speak of it. But since Linfeng isn't willing to speak of it, he probably doesn't want this matter to be known by others. If this makes Linfeng unhappy, I'm afraid the gains won't make up for the losses. According to his temperament, I'm afraid he won't speak of it for the rest of his life. However, he simply can't truly let go of it. Recently, his cultivation hasn't been able to increase due to this knot in his heart. I feel that he also wants to untie this knot in his heart. This visit to the Lan family is the best proof, Nangongwu slowly said. Chapter 28-30. Hearing Nangongwu's words, everyone fell into silence. Bailey Hongzhuang could see Lan Yinxiao's entanglement. In fact, they didn't have much desire to know about this secret. What they wanted more was for Yu Linfeng to be happy. Yin Xiao, Nangongwu's words are reasonable. Why don't you tell her about this matter? Mu Lingbing couldn't help but speak up. As a woman, she understood Nangongwu's feelings. We are all Linfeng's closest people. No matter which of us knows, We won't hurt Lin Feng. You don't need to have any misgivings. Just tell me. Nangong Wu's face flickered with a resolute light as she spoke. After a moment of silence, the hesitation on Lan Yunxiao's face gradually disappeared, and he nodded. All right. Seeing that Lan Yunxiao finally agreed, Nangong Wu breathed a sigh of relief. However, Lan Yunxiao's following words caused Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to fall into deep astonishment. Actually, Lin Feng is the first elder's son. This simple sentence caused everyone to fall into shock. At this moment, everyone finally understood why the aura between Lin Feng and Lan Borong was so strange when they met. Master, it seems that our guest wasn't wrong. Xiaohei couldn't help but speak up. Bailey Hongzhuang was astonished. She had never expected the first elder to be Master's father. It was truly too shocking. Speaking of this matter, the first elder is also at fault. There is a reason why Lin Feng hates him so much. Following Lan Yunxiao's unhurried narration, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also understood what had happened. It turned out that the person Lan Borong admired was Yu Linfeng's mother, Chu Xia. However, the Lan family wanted to form a marriage alliance with another family, the Wu family, and the person chosen was Lan Borong. Due to the pressure at that time, Lan Borong was an extremely responsible person for his family, so he chose to agree and let Yu Linfeng's mother down. Lan Borong's wife, Wu Yanrong, had a very strong background, so she was usually very fierce. Back then, she had taken a fancy to Lan Borong, so she insisted on marrying him. Although Lan Borong married Wu Yanrong, he only had Chu Xia in his heart, so he treated Wu Yanrong with respect. Gradually, Wu Yanrong discovered the relationship between Lan Borong and Chu Xia. Therefore, she often made things difficult for Chu Xia. Chu Xia also couldn't let go of Lan Borong, so she never got married. Back then, Lan Hongtai had suggested that Lan Borong marry Chu Xia as well. This way, he wouldn't let her down. This was undoubtedly good news for both Lan Borong and Chu Xia. However, Wu Yanrong had an unyielding personality. After learning about this matter, she strongly opposed it and even used the entire Wu clan to suppress this matter. Thus, this matter could only be left unsettled. 3 years later, because Wu Yanrong hadn't given birth to a child, everyone found out that she was infertile. At that time, Lan Borong once again proposed to marry Chu Xia, but Wu Yanrong still refused. Because of this, although they were very unhappy, they could only suppress this matter. During this helpless process, Chu Xia suddenly became pregnant. Chapter 28:31. After knowing this, Wu Yanrong became extremely crazy and treated Chu Xia even more harshly and excessively. Lan Borong protected Chu Xia many times, but Wu Yanrong always took advantage of Lan Borong's absence to torture Chu Xia. In desperation, Lan Borong could only let Chu Xia temporarily stay at her good friend's house until Chu Xia gave birth and returned to the family. In fact, Lan Borong was not a person who could not protect his wife and child. But at that time, the Lan family was also in a crisis and needed the help of the Wu family, so Lan Borong could only do this. However, after Chu Xia returned to the Lan family, because Lan Borong could not give Chu Xia a status, Chu Xia's daily life was very bad. After Wu Yanrong found out that Chu Xia gave birth to a son for Lan Borong, she felt more and more indignant. She constantly slandered Chu Xia and drove Chu Xia out of the main branch mansion to live in the branch mansion. She even said that Yu Lin Feng was an unknown bastard. The branch descendants were not clear about Yu Linfeng's situation, and in addition to Wu Yanrong's daily slander, everyone's expression when they saw Yu Lin Feng was naturally different from before. Therefore, Yu Lin Feng lived under such pressure since he was young, inexplicably bearing such a bad name. Chu Xia was also depressed. Her originally weak body had been depressed for a long time. In the end, when Yu Lin Feng was 10 years old, she passed away from this world. With Chu Xia's death, Yu Linfeng's situation was also difficult, and he had to bear the ridicule and ostracization of all the descendants. When Chu Xia died, Lan Borong was not in the Lan family. He was sent out and only returned 3 years later. At that time, Yu Lin Feng could not bear the pressure of the family and had already left. Over the years, Lan Borong had also been looking for Yu Linfeng's whereabouts, but Yu Linfeng, who had left, seemed to have disappeared without a trace. No matter how much they asked, there was no trace of his whereabouts. After Lan Borong returned and found out that Yu Linfeng had left, he was furious and taught Wu Yinrong a lesson, but it was useless. A few years later, Wu Yinrong also died of illness, and Lan Borong did not marry again. After Bailey Hongzhuang and the others understood the situation, they fell into silence. They didn't expect the story to be so complicated. Even though Lan Yinxiao only mentioned it briefly, they could understand how seriously Yu Linfeng had been bullied in the Lan family. Bearing the name of an illegitimate child, and being suspected by others that he was not Lan Borong's child, this feeling was undoubtedly extremely painful. What's more, in Yu Linfeng's opinion, Lan Borong didn't care about him and Chusha at all, so it was understandable that he hated Lan Borong so much. If it were anyone else, they probably wouldn't want to have anything to do with such a cruel family. I see. Nangong Wu lowered her voice. She finally understood why Yu Linfeng didn't tell her the truth. Illegitimate child. Just this title alone was enough to make Yu Linfeng unwilling to talk about it. Bailey Hongzhuang was very clear about the feeling Yu Linfeng had to endure. But when she thought about how she was also bullied in the general's estate, those days were truly unbearable. Chapter 28:32. Mu Lingbing's expression was somewhat helpless. She had originally thought that it was just a misunderstanding, but she hadn't expected the process to be so complicated. With Yu Linfeng's arrogance, it was really too difficult to get him to forgive her. Nangong Wu's expression was also complicated. In that case, not only did head elder let Chusha down, he also didn't fulfill his duty to Linfeng. Lan Yinxiao sighed. Whether it's the house head or the elders, they all sacrifice for the family. For the Lan family's point of view, head elder has undoubtedly made great contributions to the family and is worthy of our respect. However, from Linfeng's point of view, head elder really didn't fulfill his duty as a father. In fact, it's been too late for head elder to regret his actions all these years. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun exchanged glances. They didn't have any right to speak on this matter. They understood that it was normal for an elder to make sacrifices for the family. Although it was hard to accept from Yu Linfeng's point of view, it wasn't uncommon in many families. Then what should we do now? Nangong Wu was helpless. She originally wanted to help Yu Linfeng untie this knot in his heart, but after understanding the entire situation, she realized she didn't know where to start. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. For a moment, no one could give Nangong Wu a definite answer. This feeling was similar to asking Bailey Hongzhuang to forgive Bailey Yuyan. It wasn't an easy thing to do. Mental illness needs to be treated with mental medicine. We can't help much in this matter, but head elder is very remorseful. Perhaps after the father and son talk, the situation will develop for the better. Lan Yinxiao's eyes flickered with the light of wisdom as he spoke with a faint tone of comfort. Ever since he returned to the Lan family, some of the knots in his heart had gradually been untied. Thus, he understood that only by letting go of everything would he be happier. Although Lan Borong had let down Chusha and Yu Linfeng, he had no choice but to do so. In fact, Lan Borong had suffered no less than Yu Linfeng over the years. Do you think the first elder is really worthy of forgiveness? At this moment, Nangong Wu's words made Bailey Hongzhuang and the others fall into a state of shock. What's the difference between his actions and abandoning his wife and children? Yu Linfeng's mother was devoted to him, but because of him, she was wronged and died of depression. Since he was young, Yu Linfeng had endured too many things that he shouldn't have. Speaking of which, they are the most innocent. Although Lan Borong has contributed to the family, isn't he doing this for his own vanity? Nangong Wu's eyes flickered with confusion. After knowing everything, she felt even more heartache for Yu Linfeng, and her impression of the first elder worsened. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but sigh. It was hard to say who was right and who was wrong. They only understood it from different angles. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly spoke. Mistress, do you think Master has let go of this matter all these years? Nangong Wu shook her head. She didn't understand the meaning behind Bailey Hongzhuang's sudden question. Actually, the reason Master hates the First Elder so much is mostly because of love. Chapter 28:33. With Master's current status and experience, even if he didn't understand the reason for First Elder's actions when he was young, after he became the Palace Master of Limitless Palace, he should be well aware of the situation. The reason why Master couldn't let it go wasn't only because of the pain he suffered as a child, but also because First Elder let his mother down. This was something he couldn't forgive. But no matter what, First Elder is still his biological father. As a child, how could he forget his own father? With Master's mother's personality and experience, she would never say anything bad about the other elders. Even when she mentioned First Elder, she would be extremely gentle. Thus, it's easy to imagine Master's thoughts. Familial love is the most difficult thing to give up. This point can be seen from Master's expression when he saw First Elder. If he truly let it go or ignored it, Yulin Feng wouldn't be so angry. It was because he still cared for Lan Borong that he revealed such emotions. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone's face revealed a trace of understanding. Nangong Wu was silent for a moment, but her gaze towards Bailey Hongzhuang became increasingly gentle. Hongzhuang, you're right. We can hate anyone, but we can never hate our closest kin. The complicated atmosphere in the room instantly warmed up a little. Everyone knew what they were going to do next. If they could help Yulin Feng and Lan Borong restore their father-son relationship, it would be a great contribution. Master, First Elder has already left. Xiao He slowly ran in from outside. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang was worried that Yulin Feng and Lan Borong would have a huge conflict, so she had Xiao He stand guard outside the room. Everyone was well aware of Xiao He's ability to change its size. It was the most suitable person to stand guard. How's the situation? Lan Yinxiao asked. Xiao He shook its head. The situation shouldn't be too good. I only saw First Elder dejectedly leave. The pain on his face was too obvious. Everyone's hearts sank, but they didn't care too much. After all, this situation was within their expectations. No matter what, First Elder and Yulin Feng being able to meet is already an extremely good thing. As for how to resolve this conflict, I'm afraid it won't be resolved in a short time. When Mu Lingbing said this, her gaze landed on Nangong Wu. Among them, Nangong Wu was the one who was most concerned about this matter. Nangong Wu nodded. Sincerity can move metal and stone. If the First Elder really wants to win back Linfeng's heart, he won't give up so easily. Everyone smiled at each other and reached a consensus. Not long after, Yulin Feng arrived. Everyone adjusted their expressions to prevent Yulin Feng from noticing anything amiss. When Yulin Feng returned, his expression was somewhat gloomy. But after seeing everyone, his expression quickly returned to normal. Everyone tacitly agreed not to ask about the results of Yulin Feng and First Elder's discussion. Instead, they talked about how Lan Yinxiao and the rest had returned to the Lan family. They were very happy. Chapter 28:34. I didn't expect Yulin Feng to be Lan Junshin. It's too hard to believe. All these years, we couldn't find any trace of Junshin. It turns out he changed his name to Yulin Feng and became such an extraordinary person. Head Elder, you have a good son. Elder 4 looked at Lan Borong. His words were not meant to be sarcastic. He simply felt proud that Lan Junshin could achieve such a result. However, when the First Elder heard this, he felt extremely bitter in his heart. He also felt proud of Yulin Feng's achievements, but more than that, he felt guilty. He didn't care how great his son's achievements were. He only hoped that Yulin Feng could forgive him, even though he knew very well that he didn't have the right to be forgiven for what he had done. Lan Hongtai looked at Lan Borong's dispirited appearance, and his eyes immediately revealed a bit of complicated emotions. All these years, he and Lan Borong had been as close as brothers. Just like how he couldn't let go of Lan Yinxiao, Lan Borong couldn't let go of Lan Junshin either. Now that Lan Yinxiao had returned safely, he could put down all his worries. However, Lan Borong's matter would be even more difficult to deal with. Head Elder, you only did that for the sake of the Lan family. Speaking of which, we've let you down, Lan Hongtai said. As Lan Hongtai's voice fell, the elders nodded one after another, their faces filled with guilt. That's right, Head Elder. You only did that for the family. Speaking of which, you're not the only one who owes Junshin. All of us owe Junshin. Their guilt towards Lan Junshin was no less than their guilt towards Lan Yunxiao. They all knew that Lan Junshin was Head Elder's son, but they hadn't been able to take good care of him when Head Elder wasn't in the Lan family. In fact, they had done their best to take care of him, but they were helpless against the harm caused by some rumors. Head Elder shook his head. Everything I did for the family was of my own volition. There's no need for everyone to feel guilty. Speaking of which, I've let Chuxia and Junshin down. I should bear all of this. No matter how much time it takes, even if it costs me my life, I will find a way to get Junshin's forgiveness. Lan Junshin was his only son in this world. As for Chuxia, he could only wait until he went to hell to confess to her. Listening to the first elder's words, Lan Hongtai and the other elders sighed. Regarding this matter, they really couldn't help much. They could only pray that Lan Junshin would forgive the first elder. After all, the first elder didn't have it easy these years. Lan Hongtai patted the first elder's shoulder and said, Bo Rong, I believe your wish will come true, just like when I met Yin Xiao. Lan Borong nodded and looked into the distance. I hope so. The next day, the sky was clear and the sun was shining brightly. Early in the morning, the Lan family was already filled with gongs, drums, and firecrackers. Everywhere was filled with a festive atmosphere. Bailey Hongzhuang woke up early in the morning. Today was the day Lan Yunxiao would be conferred the title of family head. Chapter 2835. Father is finally going to become the head of the Lan family. Although it's late by 19 years, this scene is still delightful. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but smile at the fiery red festive scene. Mu Lingbing held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and nodded with a smile. Tears of joy flickered in her eyes. That's right. I never thought that I would be able to see this again after so many years. Speaking of which, your father and I are all thanks to you, my precious daughter. Otherwise, how could we see the light of day again? It's all thanks to your good looks. Bailey Hongzhuang covered her mouth and chuckled. Although the Central Plaza had suffered great damage, with the Lan family's ability, they were able to restore it to its original state in a short period of time. Today's appointment ceremony was still held in the Central Plaza. Early in the morning, the entire Blue Sun City was bustling with noise and excitement. When Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichan, and Mo Yunjue arrived at the Central Plaza, the gazes the clansmen of Blue Sun City looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with were no longer cold and indifferent. Instead, they were filled with intimacy and joy. Situ Yin and Mu Jintz were also warmly welcomed by everyone. Now, everyone in the Lan family knew that the Lan family, Tiangang sect, and Sun Moon Palace were connected by marriage. This caused the Lan family's status to rise. Now, everyone could be said to be on the same side. Ouyang Heng and Ouyang Yiqian of the Ouyang family once again came to the Lan family to congratulate them on the appointment ceremony. Master Yin, congratulations. You're about to become the head of the Lan family. I hope we can get along well in the future. Ouyang Heng's face was full of smiles. His words were filled with flattery towards Lan Yunxiao, and he didn't mention anything about what had happened in the past. Looking at Ouyang Heng, Lan Yunxiao's eyes flashed. He smiled and said, Of course. Our Lan family has always had a good relationship with the Ouyang family. I hope this relationship can continue in the future. Hearing this, Ouyang Heng's smile became more pleasantly surprised. He repeatedly said, Of course, of course. Now, the Lan family's status had risen. With the Tiangang sect, the Sun Moon Palace, and even the Limitless Palace, these three major sects, many forces wanted to have a relationship with the Lan family. Ouyang Heng was originally worried that Lan Yunxiao would hold a grudge against him because of his friendship with Lan Jingquang in the past. If he alienated the Ouyang clan because of this, it would be a great loss to their clan. Fortunately, Lan Yunxiao didn't care about this matter and even gave him a heart-calming pill. Only then did he feel completely at ease, and his favorable impression of Lan Yunxiao deepened. Perhaps it was because Lan Yunxiao had a breadth of mind that Lan Jingquang didn't, which was why the Lan family's reputation was so high. Ouyang family head, please take a seat. Lan Yunxiao's voice was warm, and his attitude was cordial. The Ouyang clan and the Lan clan had become friends after he left the Lan clan. Speaking of which, there was no conflict between him and Ouyang Hung, so he didn't mind doing him a favor. Ouyang Hung sat down with a smile on his face. Ouyang Yiqian followed behind Ouyang Hung and watched all the changes. He was also amazed. Chapter 2836. Most importantly, according to Ouyang Hung, their Ouyang clan no longer had the right to marry into the Lan clan. Fortunately, he hadn't married Lan Qingyan, or their Ouyang clan would be in an extremely awkward position. If there was still a chance, he would admire Bailey Hongzhuang even more. However, he was clear that he couldn't be compared to Di Beichen. Although Lan Yunxiao didn't invite many factions to his conferring ceremony, it was still a grand occasion. Tiangang Sect, Sun Moon Palace, Limitless Palace, Slaughter Heaven Pavilion, and the Ouyang clan. Just the presence of the leaders of these 5 factions was far superior to the conferring ceremonies of other aristocratic families. Lan Yunxiao even reserved a special seat for Lan Jingquang in the central plaza. The struggle between the two brothers for so many years would come to an end today. When Lan Jingquang appeared in front of the crowd as a prisoner, everyone couldn't help but sigh. It had only been 10 days, but Lan Jingquang looked as if he had aged 10 years. Only the unruly and resentful look in his eyes remained. Lan Jingquang's expression was extremely unsightly. He would rather die than let others see his unbearable side. Thinking back to the past several decades, when had he ever been in such a situation that he couldn't control? Everyone's attention was only attracted by Lan Jingquang for a moment before it shifted to Lan Yunxiao. Lan Yunxiao's figure was thin and tall, slender and noble. The blue brocade robe he wore made him look handsome, confident, and graceful. He was spirited and handsome with a gentle smile. There wasn't the slightest trace of a biting cold aura around him. On the contrary, he was calm and collected with an indifferent and distant temperament. Lan Yunxiao slowly walked over like a dazzling piece of warm jade, making everyone feel the warmth of a spring breeze. For a moment, no one could stand shoulder to shoulder with him. Master Yun is here. Master Yun is truly handsome and confident. Just looking at him makes one feel calm and approachable. That's right. Master Yun is famous for his good temper. He doesn't put on airs at all. Isn't our second miss as close to us as Master Yun? Joyful smiles appeared on the faces of the Lan clan's clansmen. In the past, when Lan Jingquang was present, everyone felt a kind of pressure. But in front of Lan Yunxiao, everyone felt that he was their family, their true spiritual leader. Lan Yunxiao's gaze silently landed on Lan Jingquang. Lan Jingquang's eyes were red as he glared at Lan Yunxiao. To him, such humiliation was no different from death by 1,000 cuts. He really wanted to disrupt this ceremony, but Bailey Hongzhuang had already sealed his mouth, so he couldn't even make sound. He could only stare helplessly. An elegant smile quietly appeared on Lan Yunxiao's lips. Lan Jingquang's fury was an excellent congratulatory gift to him. Lan Hongtai stood on the high platform with a face full of smiles as he watched Lan Yunxiao slowly walk over. The warmth and joy in his eyes couldn't be more obvious. Today is the day my Lan family will hand over the position of patriarch. Thank you for coming, Sect Master of Heavenly Dipper Sect, Palace Master of Sun Moon Palace, Palace Master and Madam of Wuji Palace, Young Master of Heaven Slaughter Pavilion, and Patriarch of Ouyang. With these words, everyone's gaze landed on Situ Yin and the others. Chapter 2837. Lan Jingquang's gaze swept over Situ Yin and the others. When he saw Yulin Feng, he couldn't help but be shocked. Disbelief flashed through his eyes. Lan Junxin, Why is Lan Junshin here? This thought kept popping up in Lan Jingquang's mind. But when he heard Lan Hongtai call Lan Junshin the palace master of Wuji Palace, he was completely dumbfounded. Wasn't the palace master of Wuji Palace Yulin Feng? He clearly remembered that back then, because Lan Yunxiao had always protected Lan Junshin. He had secretly hindered Lan Junshin quite a few times. Although Lan Junshin's existence wasn't a threat to him, he had been suppressed by Lan Yunxiao since he was young. His heart was filled with unwillingness, so he found Lan Junshin to vent his anger. However, Lan Junshin was a person with a backbone. Even when Lan Jingquang had secretly bullied him, he had never told Lan Yunxiao about it. In the end, the reason Lan Junshin was forced to leave the Lan family was largely because of him. He thought Lan Junshin had died long ago. He didn't expect to see him again today. Just as Lan Jingquang was sizing up Yulin Feng in bewilderment, Yulin Feng's ruthless gaze landed on Lan Jingquang. Everything Lan Jingquang had done to him back then was still vivid in his mind. It was an unforgettable memory. When their gazes met, Lan Jingquang's heart couldn't help but tremble. It really was him. At this moment, he suddenly understood why Bailey Hongzhuang would become the young palace master of Wuji Palace. It was all because of Lan Junshin. In other words, long before Lan Yunxiao returned to the Lan family, Lan Junshin had already met with Lan Yunxiao. The two of them had planned all of this. Thud thud. Lan Jingquang couldn't help but take 2 steps back. His face was ashen and extremely unsightly. Yulin Feng didn't withdraw his gaze. His hatred for Lan Jingquang couldn't be described in a few words. But now that he saw Lan Jingquang in such a state, he felt somewhat gratified. 30 years to the west, 30 years to the east. This change was really interesting. Nan Gongwu naturally noticed Yulin Feng's gaze. She couldn't help but look at Lan Jingquang. It seemed like there was something she didn't know about. The position of house head should have been passed to Lan Yunxiao more than a decade ago, but many accidents happened. Fortunately, he was able to complete it after more than a decade. Lan Hongtai smiled. Hearing Lan Hongtai's words, the Lan clansmen were filled with emotions, but more than that, they were overjoyed. Next, old family head, please pass the seal to the new family head, Lan Yunxiao. With a face full of smiles, Lan Hongtai handed the seal to Lan Yunxiao. Lan Yunxiao raised his hands over his head and smoothly received it. Congratulations to the new patriarch. Congratulations to the new patriarch. The clansmen of the Lan family all saluted and shouted. The deafening sound of joy spread throughout the entire Lan family. Lan Yunxiao's face turned green when he saw this scene. It was extremely unsightly. His years of effort and meticulous planning were all for naught in the end. Without waiting for him to stay, the people who detained him sent him back to the prison. He had already seen what he needed to see. The following celebration had nothing to do with him. Chapter 2838. Just as everyone in the Lan family was immersed in this joy, Yulin Feng actually made a trip to the dungeon. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others found out that Yulin Feng was going to visit Lan Jingquang, they were surprised. Only Lan Yunxiao nodded in understanding. Inside the dungeon, Lan Jingquang looked at Yulin Feng, who had suddenly appeared, and his face turned gloomy. Lan Junshin, I didn't expect you to still be alive. Yu Manlan looked at the unfamiliar face in front of her and couldn't help but be surprised. She had never seen Lan Junshin before. However, whether it was Yulin Feng or Lan Jingquang, they didn't care about Yu Manlan. They just looked at each other, and it was as if they had returned to the past. I've disappointed you. The corner of Yulin Feng's mouth held a trace of smile. I didn't think that the usually arrogant you would also fall to such a state. So what if I've ended up like this? Lan Jingquang's expression was filled with unwillingness and madness. What right does a bastard like you have to laugh at me? Until now, I'm afraid you still don't know who your father is. How pitiful. When he said this, Yulin Feng's eyes darkened. Back then, you used this matter to ostracize me. Does it matter what my identity is? It's better than you plotting for so many years, but in the end, it's all for naught. Lan Jingquang, who thought he was unparalleled in intelligence, ended up as a prisoner abandoned by everyone. I'm really happy to be able to enjoy this scene. Lan Jingquang punched the dungeon door. I don't know what methods you use to become the palace master of Limitless Palace, but don't forget, you're still a pitiful worm in the Lan family that no one wants. I'm curious, why did you come back to the Lan family? Don't tell me you miss your father, who you don't even know if he is. Lan Jingquang, you're really a pitiful worm. Do you want to know why Hong Zhuang still has a rainbow pearl in her body? As Yu Linfeng's voice fell, Lan Jingquang and Yu Manlin's gazes locked onto Yu Linfeng. They asked nervously, "What do you mean? You think that you're smart and talented, but you don't know that you can't compare to anyone. The seven-color divine pearl is mine. The thing that you want is the thing that I want to throw away. Back then, I didn't fight for it because I didn't want it. If I really wanted to fight for it, even if you're the son of the patriarch, what does it matter?" As soon as he finished speaking, Lan Jingquang was completely dumbfounded. He stared at Yu Linfeng with disbelief written all over his face. "Impossible. That's impossible." Yu Linfeng chuckled. "If you don't want to believe it, then continue to deceive yourself. Back then, no matter if it was Yin Xiao or I, we weren't willing to fight for all of this, but you just had to drag everyone in. In the end, the worst person is you." Lan Jingquang's expression froze, and his body uncontrollably turned cold. Was it really like this? Lan Hongtai had said the same thing to him before. Was he really the one who was obsessed with going about things the wrong way all this time? Yu Linfeng ignored Lan Jingquang and directly opened the dungeon door. His gaze was cold and ruthless. "I came here today to return the humiliation you gave me back then." Chapter 2839. Whether it was Yu Linfeng and Lan Jingquang who were talking, or Yu Manlan, who was dumbfounded, but didn't notice that there was another figure outside the dungeon. After that figure heard what Yu Linfeng said, he couldn't help but tighten his grip on the dungeon door. His entire body couldn't help but tremble. When Lan Borong saw Yu Linfeng go to the dungeon, he couldn't help but follow him. Although Yu Linfeng's attitude towards him was very bad, as long as he had the chance to talk to Yu Linfeng, he would look forward to it. However, he didn't expect to hear such a story after coming to the dungeon. He never knew that Lan Jingquang had been bullying Yu Linfeng in the past. What he didn't know was that Yu Linfeng had the rainbow pearl in his body. If he had known, many things wouldn't have happened. What made him sigh was that Yu Linfeng had known about this long ago, but he hadn't said anything. It must be because he hated him to the core. If the rainbow pearl in Bailey Hongzhuang's body belonged to Yu Linfeng, then how much did he hate the Lan family to the point that he didn't even want an existence like the rainbow pearl? Lan Borong was shocked. He owed Yu Linfeng to the extreme. He never knew that his son was so outstanding, and he had never given Yu Linfeng any care. Now that he wanted to ask for forgiveness, what right did he have? Bang, bang, bang. In the dungeon, a series of sounds came out. Yu Linfeng didn't show any mercy. Although so many years had passed, the shame from back then was still strong in his heart. Lan Jingquang's cultivation had been destroyed, and he was already an ordinary person. How could he withstand Yu Linfeng's attacks? In a short time, Lan Jingquang was beaten to a pulp by Yu Linfeng. Blood kept flowing from the corner of his mouth. He was in an extremely sorry state. When Yu Manlan saw this, a look of panic appeared on her face. She hurriedly said, "What are you doing? You will kill him if you do that." Yu Linfeng glanced at Yu Manlan indifferently. When Yu Manlan saw the ferocity and murderous intent in Yu Linfeng's eyes, she couldn't help but gasp. Her face turned pale, and a chill rose from the soles of her feet. "Yu Manlan, although you're not a good person, I don't want to make a move on you. So, while I'm still talking, you'd better scram as far as you can. If you dare to say another word, do you believe that I will make your death even more miserable?" Yu Linfeng's cold and arrogant voice was filled with murderous intent. He grabbed Yu Manlin's chin with one hand and lifted her up. After seeing her increasingly pale face, he ruthlessly threw her to the other side of the prison. "Pah!" Yu Manlin's body was ruthlessly thrown against the wall, and she slid down from the wall to the ground. She looked at Yu Linfeng, who was like a demon in front of her, in fear. Her body couldn't help but tremble. Lan Jingquang's mouth was full of bloody foam, but he revealed a smile. He looked at Yulin Feng and said, "Kill me if you can." Yulin Feng ruthlessly stepped on Lan Jingquang's body and said, "It's not that easy for you to die. After doing so many bad things, you must be tortured well." Chapter 2840. Hearing Yulin Feng's words, the light in Lan Jingquang's eyes instantly extinguished. He originally wanted to use this chance to end himself. Once he fell into Lan Yunxiao's hands, he would suffer a fate worse than death. But it was clear that Yulin Feng wouldn't grant him his wish. Yulin Feng looked at Lan Jingquang, who was lying on the ground like a stray dog. The resentment in his heart gradually dissipated. In the end, his gaze landed on Lan Jingquang's hand. "Back then, every time you attacked me, I thought to myself that one day I would cripple that hand of yours." Lan Jingquang couldn't help but be startled. His pupils constricted. Even the crazed him couldn't help but feel a trace of fear. However, the hope in Lan Jingquang's heart was of no use. Yulin Feng was already in front of him in the next second and ruthlessly stomped down on his right hand. Crack! The crisp sound of bones breaking rang out, followed by Lan Jingquang's miserable shriek. Yulin Feng showed no mercy and completely crippled his right hand. "Yulin Feng, you'll die a horrible death." Lan Jingquang's eyes were bloodshot, and his veins bulged as he crazily screamed. Yulin Feng sneered. "I still don't know what will happen to me, but I do know that you'll definitely die a horrible death." Yu Manlan sat on the ground in a daze. She had long forgotten how to react as she watched this scene. All that was left was her unending tears. Enjoy your last moment. Once you leave the Lan family, you'll truly be in complete darkness. Yulin Feng left behind these words and turned to leave the dungeon. Following Yulin Feng's departure, Lan Jingquang blankly lay on the ground. Fresh blood continuously flowed from his wounds. His entire body was in immense pain, but none of this pain could compare to the pain in his heart. Staring at the ceiling, he never thought that he would fall into such a situation. His days as a stray dog were simply worse than death. His cultivation had already been crippled, and now his hand was crippled. If this continued, he was afraid that he would go crazy. Lan Borong had remained outside the prison the entire time, paying attention to everything that was happening inside. When he saw Yulin Feng emerge, he hurriedly hid himself. Only after Yulin Feng left did he reappear. The next second, Lan Borong also walked into the dungeon. Lan Jingquang and Yu Manlan were finally able to breathe a sigh of relief. But when they heard footsteps coming from the dungeon, they couldn't help but feel nervous. But when they saw that it was Lan Borong, they let out a sigh of relief. "So, it's the Great Elder. What are you doing here?" Lan Jingquang was the first to speak. "Lan Junshin did such a thing to me just now. Hurry and help me report this to the head of the family." Lan Jingquang still had some hope in his heart. Even though what he did back then was too much in Lan Hongtai's eyes, he was still Lan Hongtai's son. He believed that if Lan Hongtai saw his miserable appearance now, he might take pity on him and let him live. However, Lan Borong's gaze was extremely cold. Seeing that Lan Borong didn't speak, Lan Jingquang couldn't help but frown. "Didn't you hear what I said?" Chapter 2841. Hearing this, Lan Jingquang was taken aback. "What do you mean?" "Nothing." Lan Borong's head drooped slightly, causing Lan Jingquang and Yu Manlan to be unable to see his eyes. When he raised his head again, his eyes were filled with disgust. "I just want to fulfill my responsibility as a father." Lan Jingquang and Yu Manlan couldn't help but look at each other. They really didn't understand the meaning of Lan Borong's words. However, in the next second, Lan Jingquang already understood. Bang! Lan Borong ruthlessly kicked Lan Jingquang to the wall, causing him to spit out another mouthful of blood. "This child is already pitiful enough, but you still have to do such an excessive thing to him. I originally thought that the reason why you treated Yun Xiao like that was because you were suppressed by Yun Xiao all year round. The imbalance in your heart caused you to go crazy and do crazy things. But now it seems that you are a despicable person with a vicious heart. If I had known this earlier, I would have taken your life long ago. First Elder, you're crazy." Yu Manlon looked at Lan Borong in disbelief. She had known the first elder for so many years, but she had never seen him do such an unreasonable thing. I'm not crazy. In the past, I was really crazy when I tolerated you. Now, I've truly returned to normal, Lan Borong coldly said. After being inexplicably beaten by the first elder, Lan Jingquang's expression was extremely unsightly. First elder, the entire family knows that you didn't care about Lan Junshin at that time. What's the point of doing this now? Could it be that you think Lan Junshin will forgive you if you do this now? Stop dreaming. Do you know? Lan Junshin even took out the 7-colored sacred pearl from his body because he hated you, his father. Following Lan Jingquang's words, Lan Borong's expression became even more unsightly. This was the pain in his heart. He didn't care whether Lan Junshin was outstanding or not. What he cared about was that Lan Junshin was his son. However, he couldn't protect his son, which was the biggest regret in his life. I don't care if he forgives me or not, but at least now I want to do my duty as a father. The debt he owed Lan Junshin could never be repaid in this lifetime, but at least within the scope of what he could do, he still wanted to do something. He was wrong. When Lan Junshin was bullied in the past, he should have sheltered him from the wind and rain as a father. Although it was late for so many years, it was still what he wanted to do. Crack! Another crisp sound of bones breaking rang out. Lan Borong did not show any mercy when he attacked, and his gaze was even colder and more emotionless. It's time for you to pay back the excessive actions you did to Junshin. Lan Jingquang screamed crazily. He had just lost his right arm, and now his left arm was crippled by Lan Borong. Are you crazy? The Patriarch will never allow you to do that. Lan Jing screamed crazily. The pain from his arms almost made him faint. His face was extremely pale. Lan Borong coldly glanced at Lan Jingquang. You forgot that the new Patriarch is Lan Yunxiao. I believe he won't stop me. Lan Jingquang couldn't help but be startled by Lan Borong's words, and his entire person became dispirited. Chapter 2842. By the time Lan Borong left the dungeon, Lan Jingquang had already fainted. After losing his cultivation, he had become an ordinary person. Now that both his arms had been broken, the pain wasn't something an ordinary person could endure. Yu Manlon looked at Lan Jingquang and fell into a daze. She didn't know what to do. Even though she had already expected that their situation would be very tragic, when this scene really happened, she still felt shocked. She was a little hysterical and scared to the extreme. When Lan Yunxiao and Bailey Hongzhuang arrived at the dungeon, they saw this scene. Lan Jingquang was covered in blood, and Yu Manlon was crying on the side. Bailey Hongzhuang originally didn't know why Yu Linfeng had come to the dungeon. When she and Lan Yunxiao arrived, they saw Yu Linfeng leave head elder and enter the dungeon. The two of them stayed outside for a while and understood everything. Looking at the unconscious Lan Jingquang in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang only felt that he deserved it. She didn't think that not only did Lan Jingquang treat her father like this, even her master had been humiliated by Lan Jingquang. When Yu Manlon saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Lan Yunxiao, she was first stunned and then panicked. Lan Junshin and head elder have already come to teach him a lesson. Why are you still here? Could it be that you want to torture him to death? However, both Bailey Hongzhuang and Lan Yunxiao couldn't be bothered to pay attention to Yu Manlon. I didn't expect Lan Jingquang to be so hateful. It's only right to cripple his arms, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a frown. Linfeng has always been in head elder's heart. If Linfeng knew about this, he would probably feel a little comforted. Lan Yunxiao's eyes flashed with a distant light. Head elder did everything for the clan, but his fatherly love for Yu Linfeng was no less than any other father's. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. There were indeed a lot of helplessness in a person's life. The first elder did not protect Yu Linfeng back then, which was indeed a failure as a father. But if he could make up for it now, it would be a good thing. When Yu Manlon saw that Lan Yunxiao and Bailey Hongzhuang had no intention of attacking them, the panic in her eyes dissipated. She hastily said, Jingquang has lost too much blood. Hurry and save him, or else you will die. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Yumanlon indifferently and said coldly, "It's just a little more blood. He won't die. Don't worry. The pain he's suffering is far from enough. He won't die so easily." With that, Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Lan Yunxiao. "Father, the banquet outside is still waiting for you to host. Let's go out first." Lan Yunxiao nodded and left the dungeon with Bailey Hongzhuang, ignoring Yumanlon and Lan Jingquang behind them. Compared to the cruel things Lan Jingquang had done in the past, this was nothing. Yumanlon watched as Bailey Hongzhuang and the others coldly left. For the first time, she felt fear and helplessness. She had never seen Lan Jingquang in such a miserable state. As the dungeon door slammed shut, the entire dungeon fell into darkness once again, just like her life. Chapter 2843. Yin Xiao, we're planning to leave in 2 days, Situ Yin slowly said. They came to the Lan family to help Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing. Now that Lan Yunxiao had successfully become the patriarch of the Lan family, he and Mu Jins didn't need to worry anymore. Moreover, both the Sun Moon Palace and Tiangang sect needed someone to oversee them. It wasn't good for them to leave for too long. Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing's expressions couldn't help but change. "Father, mother, you should stay here for a while longer," Mu Lingbing said. Mu Jins shook her head. "We've already stayed in the Lan family for a long time. Now that everything in the Lan family is on the right track, you can just stay here. When we leave, we'll bring Lan Jingquang and the others to the Sun Moon Palace. It's not good for you to let them stay here." Situ Yan's voice was heavy. Yu Siqing and the others had done all kinds of bad things, so they definitely wouldn't let them off easily. Once they were brought to the Sun Moon Palace, they wouldn't have any scruples in dealing with them. If they stayed in the Lan family, Lan Yunxiao would always have a brotherly relationship. If they went too far, it wouldn't be good for Lan Yunxiao's future development. Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing looked at each other. They knew that Situ Yin and Mu Jins were doing this for their own good, so they immediately nodded. Although there was a certain distance between the Lan clan and the Sun Moon Palace, with their cultivation, it wouldn't take them too long to reach the Sun Moon Palace. Just like how Lan Jingquang had imprisoned them in the Yu clan, they were using the same method now. In the future, no one would ask about the whereabouts of Lan Jingquang and the others, so they didn't need to worry about anything. "Hongzhuang and I also need to return to the Tiangang sect. We've been away for a long time, so there are probably some matters in the sect that need to be dealt with." Di Beichun followed up. Now that Situ Yin was staying in the Sun Moon Palace, the matters of the Tiangang sect completely fell on Di Beichun's shoulders. This was an important task his master gave him, so he couldn't slack off. "Hongzhuang, aren't you going to stay in the Lan family for a few more days?" Mu Lingbing's eyes flashed with reluctance. It hadn't been easy for her to reunite with Hongzhuang, but she had been so busy with her revenge that she hadn't had much time to spend with Bailey Hongzhuang. After more than 10 years of separation and so many years of blank memories, she really hoped that she could spend more time with Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled as she held Mu Lingbing's hand. "Mother, the Lan family and Tiangang sect are not far from each other. It is still very convenient for us to meet. We still have a lot of time to get along in the future. I'll go back to Tiangang sect for a while. It's not too late to come back after some things are dealt with." She had not returned to Tiangang sect for a long time, and her friends were still there. Hearing this, Mu Lingbing frowned. Even though she was still very reluctant, she still nodded. Indeed, now that all the problems had been resolved with their cultivations, there was still a long way to go. They didn't have to worry about not being able to spend time together. At this moment, Situ Yan's words once again attracted the attention of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. "However, before we leave, there is one more thing we need to discuss." "What is it?" Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. Chapter 2844. Mu Jins and Si Tian looked at each other, then smiled at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun. "Naturally, it's time to prepare for your wedding." Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were both stunned by her words. Bailey Hongzhuang's face quickly flushed red, and her questioning face quietly lowered. On the other hand, Di Beichun was extremely excited. His dark eyes flickered with unprecedented excitement. Really, there wasn't a moment when he didn't want to marry Bailey Hongzhuang. Seeing Di Beichun's excited expression, Si Tuyin smiled and shook his head. This child had always been calm, so it was rare to see him so excited. Of course it's true. Lan Yunxiao couldn't help but slap his forehead. That's right, I actually forgot the most important point. Mu Lingbing's face also revealed a joyful smile. The two children's hearts had been close for so long. If it weren't for these matters delaying them, they would have gotten married long ago. I watched Beichun grow up since he was young. I can guarantee his character. He's definitely sincere when he's with Hong Zhuang. You all know about this child's background, so he's like his grandfather. If he dares to bully Hong Zhuang, I'll be the first to not let him off. Sidin patted Di Beichun's shoulder, his eyes flickering with a distant and gratified light. He originally thought that it was fate that he was able to pick up Di Beichun, but he didn't expect there to be an even deeper fate between them. When his background was mentioned, Di Beichun's eyes dimmed for a moment, but it disappeared in the blink of an eye. His handsome and elegant face revealed a serious expression. I will definitely treat Hong Zhuang well. Mu Lingbing smiled faintly. If we were to hand Yishuan over to someone else, we would naturally not be at ease. But if we were to hand her over to Beichun, we would be completely at ease. We've all seen the relationship between you and Yi Xian. If you hadn't been helping Yi Xian all these years, I'm afraid everything would still be different. Lan Yunxiao looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a loving gaze. It wasn't easy to find our precious daughter back. I really can't bear to let her marry someone else like this. Why don't we wait for another 2 years so that she can stay by our side and accompany us? Di Beichun, who was originally immersed in joy, suddenly had a bitter expression when he heard Lan Yunxiao's words. Don't, father-in-law. I've been waiting for years. Lan Yunxiao chuckled. Who told you to call me father-in-law? You stinking brat. You can't wait to kidnap my daughter. Isn't that just a matter of time? Huh. Si Tian and the others all laughed. This was truly a joyous occasion. We need to properly discuss how to hold this wedding. Why don't we return to the room first and discuss it in detail? Mu Lingbing suggested. Everyone nodded. This was the most important matter to them right now, so they naturally needed to properly discuss it. You all enter the room and rest for a while. I'll go invite my father over. Lan Yunxiao smiled. As Bailey Hongzhuang's grandfather, Lan Hongtai naturally had to participate in this matter. After hearing Lan Yunxiao's words, Lan Hongtai strode over to the house head's meeting room. Before he even arrived, his laughter could be heard from afar. Chapter 2845. Master, congratulations. You're about to get married. Xiao He seemed to have been injected with chicken blood and was extremely excited. They had waited for this day for too long. Haha. Although we've gotten married once before, it's a completely different feeling compared to now. Little White was also so happy that it danced with joy. Thinking back to when they first found out about their master's identity, they only felt immense pressure. The road in front of them was blank and distant. Who would have thought that unknowingly, they had already reached this place? It was truly delightful. The happiest person now is Di Beichun. Haha, Baisher said with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was overflowing with a joyful smile. Everyone in front of her was her family. Compared to the first marriage, which was more of a revenge, this was a real wedding with the blessings of her family. Even though she had already privately pledged her life to Di Beichun, when this day arrived, they couldn't help but be exceptionally happy. When Lan Hongtai walked into the room, he found that everyone had already gathered here, and the smile on his face couldn't help but become even wider. Yishuan is Yun Xiao and Ling Bing's only daughter, so this wedding must be grand. Lan Hongtai said. Once these words were spoken, everyone nodded in succession. That's natural. Whoever dares to make Yishuan suffer, I definitely won't let them off. When Mu Jin said this, she couldn't help but look at Situ Yin beside her. Although Situ Yin was Bailey Hongzhuang's grandfather, he now represented Di Beichun's master more. Our Tiangang sect's young sect master is getting married. So how can this extravagance be small? Situ Yin responded. Seeing that everyone had the same opinion, everyone revealed smile. In law, in your opinion, how should this wedding be held? Situ Yin inquired. Although he was the sect master of Tiangang sect and had seen many aspects of the world these years, he really didn't have much experience in holding a wedding. We have to choose an auspicious day first, and then inform the major forces. After all, it's such a joyous event. We have to let everyone witness it. Lan Hongtai looked at the crowd and said, "What do you think?" That's right. No matter if it's the Heavenly Dipper sect or the Lan family, they're both influential forces in the Shengxian continent. Now that Beichun and Yishuan are about to get married, we naturally can't be stingy. Mu Jins nodded. Logically speaking, Yishuan is the only daughter of our Lan clan's patriarch. Naturally, she has to be married off grandly from our Lan clan. However, the distance from the Lan clan to the Tiangang sect is also a problem. Lan Hongtai couldn't help but frown. With the distance between the Lan family and Tiangang sect, it would take several days just to rush there. If the wedding was carried out like this, it would take even longer. How do you usually solve this kind of problem? Mu Lingbing couldn't help but ask. If Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't be married off from the Lan clan, it would be a huge regret for them. While they were discussing, Yulin Feng and Nangong Wu also arrived. I heard that you were discussing the marriage between Hongzhuang and Beichen. You don't mind us coming uninvited, right? Of course, of course. Lan Yunxiao hastily stood up. Look at me. I'm so happy that I've forgotten everything. I should have invited you here earlier. Chapter 2846. Mu Lingbing's eyes lit up at Nangong Wu's words. She always felt that it would be very inconvenient for Bailey Hongzhuang to return to the Lan family after marrying into the Tiangang sect. They wouldn't be able to spend much time together. If they built a transportation array, it would be much more convenient. That's right, build a transportation array. It must be built. Mu Lingbing hastily said. Everyone couldn't help but chuckle at Mu Lingbing's joyful expression. Her longing for her daughter was too obvious. Mu Lingbing didn't mind. I only have one precious daughter. Naturally, I can't bear to not see her often. Lan Yunxiao nodded. Building a transportation array is a must. It's best to build one at the Sun Moon Palace as well. That way, it'll be more convenient for Bing to return to her parents' home. Although they'd already acknowledged each other, they often had to stay in the sect due to their status. If they could save some time on the road, it'd naturally be for the best. Mu Lingbing looked at Lan Yunxiao with a gentle gaze, her eyes filled with joy. That's right. We have to prepare for this first. Once the transportation array is built, it'll be more convenient to hold the wedding. Situ Yin nodded. Leave this matter to me. Lan Hongtai's face was full of smiles. I wish one a lot. I hope she can take advantage of this opportunity to erase some of her hatred for this old man. Bailey Hongzhuang, who had been listening with her head bowed, couldn't help but raise her head and hastily say, Grandfather, how could I still be angry at you? Lan Hongtai couldn't help but laugh. That's what grandfather wants to do for you. Yishuan, your grandfather wants to do something for you. Let's do it. Lan Yunxiao smiled. He'd often chatted with Lan Hongtai these past few days and naturally understood his thoughts. Lan Hongtai felt extremely indebted to Mu Lingbing and Bailey Hongzhuang. He always wanted to do something for them. Now that he had the chance to prepare for Hongzhuang's wedding, he must be extremely happy. Of course, I have no problem. Grandpa is also willing to work for me. I can't be happier. Following that, everyone continued to give their opinions on the wedding of Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. All kinds of complicated details and etiquette were discussed and decided one by one. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. Compared to the wedding details that everyone was talking about now, their previous wedding could not be more simple. It was obvious that Di Beichen attached great importance to this wedding. When Lan Yunxiao and the others were discussing, he listened attentively and even gave his opinions from time to time. Not only did Si Tuyin and the others not want to wrong Bailey Hongzhuang, but he also didn't want to wrong Bailey Hongzhuang. This was the only woman he loved in his life. After waiting for so long, he wanted to give her the best. Now that he saw Bailey Hongzhuang's relatives here, he felt that his long wait was worth it. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen's serious side profile, and her heart gradually warmed and softened. From when they first met, when she was 14 years old, to now, when she was about to turn 20, she was so glad that this man had always been by her side. Chapter 28:47. Di Beichen raised his head and saw Bailey Hongzhuang's soft, almost melting gaze. His handsome face couldn't help but reveal a doting smile. Just by looking at each other and smiling, they understood each other's feelings. There was already too much tacit understanding between them. There was no need for too much expression. Just being able to see each other was already a kind of happiness. Lan Hongtai, Si Tian, and the others discussed for a long time before finalizing the details of the wedding. After they confirmed the details of the wedding, everyone revealed joyful smiles. Everyone has already divided up the work. Let's get these things done as soon as possible. I also have to quickly arrange for people to build the teleportation array. Lan Hongtai's face was full of smiles. He hadn't been so happy in a long time. Jinx and I will make a trip back to Sun Moon Palace first. We'll take care of the teleportation array there. This will speed up the process. Si Tuyin said. Hongzhuang and I will also make a trip back to Tiangang's sect. There are many places that need to be prepared. Si Tuyin nodded. After I return from Sun Moon Palace, I'll go to Tiangang's sect. That place needs help the most. Lingbing and I will be in charge of preparing Hongzhuang's wedding dress and dowry. Haha. Nangong Wu smiled, her eyes filled with joy. Mu Lingbing gazed at the elegant and beautiful Bailey Hongzhuang in front of her. In her mind, she was thinking that she had to personally make the most beautiful wedding dress for her daughter. Fortunately, she could still see her daughter get married in her lifetime. Looking at the relatives in front of her who were already busy planning how to help her, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes couldn't help but heat up. Everyone in front of her was the greatest happiness in her life. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen set off for Tiangang's sect. Si Tian and Mu Jin's also brought Yu Siqing and the others to Sun Moon Palace. When everyone saw Lan Jingquang's arms hanging down just like that, their expressions changed a little. There wasn't the slightest bit of pity, only joy. Yu Siqing's appearance had completely changed. Her entire body was as thin as bones, and her eyes were deeply sunken. She was like a withered old woman, and she no longer had the slightest bit of her former demeanor. On her exposed skin, everyone could see the tree bark that was gradually appearing. It was extremely frightening. Mu Jinsei looked at Yu Siqing and felt a burst of joy in her heart. In the past, she couldn't accept this and had sealed herself away for more than 10 years. Now, she had finally returned all of this to Yu Siqing. She and Yu Siqing used to be good sisters, so she knew how much Yu Siqing cared about her appearance. When she returned to Sun Moon Palace, she would specially prepare a prison for Yu Siqing. She would fill the prison with mirrors so that Yu Siqing could clearly see her current appearance. As for Yu Manlan and Lan Jingquang, they were not feeling well either. Bailey Hongzhuang's poison tortured them almost every day, making them wish they were dead. What scared them the most was Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Yu Siqing had poisoned Lan Yunxiao and Mu Bingbing with dozens of poisons. Bailey Hongzhuang would return these poisons to them even more severely. At the very least, in the next 20 years, they wouldn't die. They would only experience what Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing had felt. Father, mother, we'll be leaving first, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. Chapter 28:48. Hearing Di Beichen's words, Lan Yunxiao and Lan Yunxiao both nodded. Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing both found a way to address him funny, but they knew this son-in-law couldn't run away. Remember to come back early. We still have a lot of things to prepare. Mu Lingbing smiled. Father, take care. Mother, take care. Immediately after, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen set off in the direction of Tiangang's sect. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen returned to Tiangang's sect, They looked at the familiar scene and couldn't help but reveal a rueful smile. They had left Tiangang's sect for several months. In just a few months, many things had happened. When they returned, many things had changed. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen appeared, Tiangang's sect disciples noticed them and immediately bowed. "Greetings, young sect master." Compared to the doubts they had for Bailey Hongzhuang before, everyone's views were completely different now. Even when Bailey Hongzhuang won first place in the alchemist competition, everyone only confirmed that Bailey Hongzhuang was a genius. However, her status was still inferior to Di Beichen. Since the Battle of Zhuolu, everyone knew that Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't an ordinary cultivator. Her identity was the young palace master of Wuji Palace. In this way, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were a true match made in heaven. However, the news that spread not long ago was no different from a heavy bomb in Tiangang's sect. It turned out that Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't an ordinary person. She was actually the granddaughter of the sect master. In this way, Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't an outsider of Tiangang's sect. Her identity was very honorable. Not only that, Bailey Hongzhuang was actually the second miss of the Lan family. The matter of the seven-colored pearl had now been spread to everyone. No one would have thought that there would be such a relationship between Lan Qingyan and Bailey Hongzhuang. It was really amazing. The incident at the Lan family's conferring ceremony could be said to have spread from one person to 10, from 10 to 100. In a short period of time, everyone understood clearly. This made the people who were puzzled by Bailey Hongzhuang's concealment of her identity understand the reason. No one would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang carried such a huge grudge, personally rescuing her parents and returning to the Lan family to take back everything. In their opinion, all these things were difficult for a 19-year-old girl to do. Recalling all the harsh thoughts they had towards Bailey Hongzhuang in the past, they thought that Bailey Hongzhuang used seductive means to seduce the young sect master. It was too shallow. They were a few years older than Bailey Hongzhuang, but they knew that none of them could do the same as Bailey Hongzhuang. In a short period of time, Bailey Hongzhuang had become their idol. Bailey Hongzhuang walked in Tiangang's sect. From the happy eyes of the surrounding disciples, she could see that they no longer had the various opinions they had in the past. Many times, it was useless to explain to others. However, when you really did something, everyone would quietly change their opinion of you. After receiving the news, the four hall masters and the elders came out to welcome them immediately. After seeing the figures of Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen, everyone's face revealed a smile. "Welcome back, young sect master and eldest miss." The four hall masters and the elders bowed together. Chapter 28-49. Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing had long known of Bailey Hongzhuang's true identity. Previously, the sect master had ordered them not to speak of this matter, so they had been hiding this news. However, they had always treated Bailey Hongzhuang as the eldest Mississippi. After Yin Kaiqing and Qi Yinghan learned of this news, they were still very resentful towards Qin Ai and Gu Jingqing. They felt that they had deliberately concealed this news so that they were unaware of it. Fortunately, their attitude towards Bailey Hongzhuang was not bad. If they had offended the eldest miss, it would have been very troublesome. Great Elder Qiao Yingzi could not help but sigh in his heart. It was no wonder that the sect master did not object when a young sect master chose Bailey Hongzhuang. After all, Han Xiling and the young sect master were the golden couple in everyone's eyes. In the past, the sect master had always looked forward to the two of them becoming a couple. However, since the appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang, Han Xiling obviously had no competition. Not only that, the original Great Elder Han Hongyi had also been severely punished after laying his hands on Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, he had completely disappeared from Tiangang's sect. If they had not understood the problem before, now that they knew the true identity of Bailey Hongzhuang, they completely understood. "Hall Master, elders, please rise." Di Beichen spoke slowly, his eyes rippling with a deep light. "I'm afraid that a lot of things have happened during my absence from Tiangang's sect. It's been hard on all of you during this period of time." Hearing this, the hall master and the elders all shook their heads and said, "This is what we should do. Let's go to the conference hall first. Everyone, report to me what has happened recently. If there is anything that need me to deal with, you can also let me know. I will deal with it as soon as possible." Bachin straightened his face and said in a deep voice. He had lived in Tiangang's sect since he was young and was filled with a sense of responsibility towards Tiangang's sect. This time, he had been away for so long. This huge Tiangang sect would definitely have a lot of things happening. Since his master had handed Tiangang's sect to him, he had to treat it well. There must not be any mistakes. "Yes, Beichun, take care of your matters first. I'll return to my quarters first," Bailey Hongzhuang said softly with a faint smile on her lips. "Do you want to come with me?" Beichun asked. In the past, Bailey Hongzhuang did not reveal her true identity, so it was not appropriate for her to go to the conference hall. But now, Bailey Hongzhuang was the granddaughter of the sect master and was one of the sovereigns of Tiangang sect. It was normal for her to go to the conference hall again. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. "I don't know much about the operation of Tiangang sect. It's useless to go. It's better for you to deal with it alone." Although she was Situ Yan's granddaughter, she didn't have any thoughts about the Big Dipper sect. Since her grandfather had already handed the Big Dipper sect over to Beichun, it meant that he had absolute trust in him. She couldn't be happier to have such an opportunity to take a break from her busy schedule. "Okay." Beichun looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with doting eyes. "You must be tired after traveling for a few days. Go back to your quarters and have a good rest. I'll be back soon. I'll wait for you." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Chapter 2850. When Bailey Hongzhuang returned to Beichun's palace, it was still spotless. It was obvious that someone had cleaned it when they weren't here. The three beasties quickly slipped into the palace as soon as they entered. Compared to their discomfort in the Yu clan and the restrictions in the Lan clan, they felt extremely comfortable in the Tiangang sect's palace. "Master, will your wedding be held in this palace as well?" Xiaohei's eyes darted around as she looked around the palace. "If it's held in this palace, it should be redecorated. After all, this used to be Beichun's palace, so it looks very masculine. As the wedding venue, it should be decorated more joyfully." Xiaohei quickly said, "This palace is very big, and its location is also very good. I don't think it will be changed, but should be refurbished." White Lion looked around seriously, as if he was commenting on everything. "Master's wedding will definitely be a grand wedding. This residence will definitely be very luxurious. Who knows, they might even refurbish this palace. Master, what do you think?" Seeing the three beasties' curious expressions, Bailey Hongzhuang looked around and said, "It might be here, but it will definitely be refurbished." She felt that this location was very good. In addition, the sect master's residence was behind it. It would be very convenient for her to see her grandfather and the others in the future. There shouldn't be a need to refurbish it. I don't think it needs to be so troublesome. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned. Although the style was a little different from the wedding room, it wouldn't be a problem as long as it was slightly modified. If they were to refurbish it, it would be a huge project. Of course, this was only Bailey Hongzhuang's current thoughts. In fact, whether it was Beichun, Lan Yinxiao, or the others, they all strongly suggested that this palace be refurbished. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang repeatedly suggested that it wasn't necessary, they still didn't stop this palace from being refurbished. The news of Bailey Hongzhuang and Beichun's return to Tiangang sect had spread throughout the sect almost immediately. Bailey Hongzhuang was now a legendary figure in Tiangang sect. For a while, almost everyone was talking about this matter. Xia Jiqing, who was cultivating, naturally heard the news. Her eyes suddenly lit up. They hadn't seen Bailey Hongzhuang for a long time. "Junyu, Hongzhuang is back. Let's go see her." Xia Jiqing's face couldn't hide the excitement. Although she already knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's identity was different from before, she didn't know enough about Bailey Hongzhuang before. But for her, all of this wasn't important. She just regarded Bailey Hongzhuang as her best sister. Looking at Xia Jiqing's excited appearance, Bai Junyu's eyes quietly flashed with a touch of worry. Jiqing, now that Hong Zhuang's identity is extraordinary, if we go there rashly, wouldn't it be bad? In the past, they didn't feel any pressure getting along with Bailey Hongzhuang because they felt that they were all people of the same status. Even if Di Beichen's identity was very noble, they didn't have any distance with Bailey Hongzhuang. But now they found that their understanding of Bailey Hongzhuang was too little. Such a noble woman was by their side, but they didn't know anything. Chapter 28:51. Listening to Bai Junyu's words, Xia Jiqing couldn't help but frown. Junyu, what do you mean by this? Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed with an incomprehensible light. Hong Zhuang is our good friend. Even if her identity is extraordinary now, what does it matter if we go to find her? Bai Junyu sighed faintly, and there was a hint of struggle on his face. I know that you regard Hong Zhuang as your good sister and have no other thoughts, but what will the other disciples think when they see it? They will only think that we are trying to climb up the social ladder. When did you start to worry about these things? Hong Zhuang was also Di Beichen's sweetheart before. When we contacted Hong Zhuang, why didn't you think that we were trying to climb up the social ladder? Xia Jiqing looked at Bai Junyu incomprehensibly. We have been with Hong Zhuang all the way and have experienced so many things. We're good friends. Why do we have so many complicated thoughts? Seeing Xia Jiqing's gaze become more and more strange, Bai Junyu couldn't help but say, Jiqing, I'm afraid that you will be disappointed. What do I have to be disappointed about? Now things are very obvious. Hong Zhuang has never revealed her true identity with us before because she has a blood feud. Now that her blood feud has been completely avenged, her identity is also very precious. Do you think that with our current identity, if we go and be friends with Hong Zhuang, we are really people from the same world? Junyu, I don't know when your thoughts have become so narrow. For me, Hong Zhuang is my good sister. She was, is, and will be. Even if she really doesn't want me as a friend, then her position in my mind will still not change. However, I believe that Hong Zhuang is not as complicated as you think. Nothing has changed at all. Xia Jiqing's eyes were firm, and her words were full of confidence. She and Bailey Hongzhuang had experienced a lot of things along the way, and she knew Bailey Hongzhuang's temperament very well. Bailey Hongzhuang had never been the kind of person who valued status. If she was really such a person, they wouldn't have become good friends in the first place. Listening to Xia Jiqing's words, Bai Junyu's face changed a bit. He didn't expect Xia Jiqing, who had always been careless, to see through this matter so clearly. Jiqing, maybe you're right. I've been overthinking things. Bai Junyu's voice was low and apologetic. Junyu, I know you think this way because of other people's influence, but we can't be easily swayed by other people. Back then, Hong Zhuang did a lot of things to help you and me be together. How could she be such a person? Xia Jiqing's eyes softened a bit. Since what happened to Bailey Hongzhuang and the Lan family was passed back to Tiangang sect, it caused a huge shock in the entire sect. Almost everyone was talking about this matter, and as they had a very good relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang, they naturally received a lot of attention from the disciples of Tiangang sect. Many people came to ask them if they knew the truth. Of course, the end result was that they were speechless. Chapter 28:52. In fact, when they learned about this matter, they only felt extremely shocked. In the past, they could feel that Bailey Hongzhuang was carrying some things because Bailey Hongzhuang was too calm at such a young age. She had never relaxed in cultivation for a while, which was definitely not something that could be done at such a young age. After learning the truth, they understood why Bailey Hongzhuang had been working so hard, and there was even a bit of heartache. When they first met Bailey Hongzhuang was only 15 years old, but she had been carrying so many things to this day. In contrast, they were much happier than Bailey Hongzhuang. Bai Junyu nodded and said, maybe I'm thinking too much. These days, Many disciples had talked about this in his ear, which made him deviate from his initial thoughts. At this moment, listening to Xia Jiqing's words, he only felt ashamed. Bailey Hongzhuang had gone through so many things with him before. The reason why they could come to Tiangang sect and have the opportunity to cultivate today was also related to Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, he actually thought of Bailey Hongzhuang with such thoughts. It was indeed a bit too much. Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu had been together for so long, and naturally knew that Bai Junyu was not such a person. She immediately smiled and said, "Sometimes you don't have to think so much. Why do you care about other people's words? Hongzhuang is the one who has experienced the assessment with us." Well, speaking of our age, Hongzhuang is not much different, but Hongzhuang is much stronger than us. Bai Junyu sighed, but there was a smile in his eyes. Speaking of it, we are good friends of Hongzhuang, but we can't do anything for her. It's really a bit of a shame. Fortunately, Di Beichun has always been helping Hongzhuang, making Hongzhuang a lot easier. This time, when Hongzhuang went to the Lan family, it should be very thrilling. Lan Xingyan is a famous genius. With our current cultivation, even if we go, I'm afraid we can't help much. That's also true. We can't relax in cultivation at all. If this goes on, it will really be too late in the future. Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu looked at each other and smiled. The previous contradiction also disappeared in this smile. I'm going to inform Dongfang and the others. Presumably, they already know that Hongzhuang has returned. Let's go see Hongzhuang together, Xia Jiqing said. I'll go with you. When Bailey Hongzhuang finished freshening up and was ready to find Xia Jiqing and the others, she found that Xia Jiqing and the others had already gathered outside the palace. Seeing this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang's face couldn't help but show a thick smile. She quickly walked in front of Xia Jiqing and the others. I was just about to find you, but I didn't expect you to already be here. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Come in and sit. According to common sense, disciples were not allowed to get close to the young lord's palace. However, Heimu had long known that Xia Jiqing and the others were good friends of Bailey Hongzhuang, so he did not stop them. He just let them wait outside the palace for a while. Chapter 2853. Hongzhuang, we have heard the news about you. It's really shocking. As soon as she saw Bailey Hongzhuang, Xia Jiqing began to chatter endlessly. I really didn't expect your true identity to be like this. You hit it too deeply before. Bai Junyu and the others walked in the back and didn't speak. After being separated for several months, they didn't know what to say. With Xia Jiqing taking the lead to speak, they felt a little more relaxed. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's face showed an apologetic expression. When I knew about this before, I was too insignificant. I couldn't compete with the Lan family, so I didn't say anything. I didn't mean to hide it from you, but my parents were persecuted before. Once Lan Jingquang and the others knew that I was still alive in this world, it would be very dangerous. The people who still had some grudges in their hearts completely understood after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words. They only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang had so many secrets, but they didn't think that there was such a risk behind it. Hongzhuang, I was just joking. I didn't mean to blame you. Xia Jiqing quickly explained. I know you have your own reasons for doing this. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly and took Xia Jiqing's hand. I know you're my good sister. Naturally, you will always stand on my side. Hongzhuang, congratulations. Now that you have finally gotten your revenge, you are much more relaxed. Dongfang Yu's peach blossom eyes fluttered, and his face was filled with a spring breeze smile. He had always appreciated and admired Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. The matter was resolved a little easier than I thought. There wasn't too much risk. We just settled the internal strife of the Lan family. Hongzhuang, when did you know that you were the granddaughter of the sect master? When the news came out, it really scared us. Did you already know before Kanglan College? Lu Qinyue's face was filled with curiosity, but she was more concerned. In the past, she couldn't help but want to compete with Bailey Hongzhuang. However, as the gap between the two of them grew bigger and bigger, her thoughts no longer existed. Bailey Hongzhuang was originally from a different world from her. If he kept holding onto the heart of comparison, he would only be letting himself fall into a dead end. As Lu Qingyue's voice fell, the faces of Xia Jiqing and the others were also filled with curiosity. They could understand the other things, but the fact that Bailey Hongzhuang was the granddaughter of the sect leader didn't match up at all. It must be known that when Bailey Hongzhuang knew the identity of Di Beichun, there was some pressure in her heart. As a good friend of Bailey Hongzhuang, Xia Jiqing was very clear about this. If Bailey Hongzhuang knew this, then this problem wouldn't exist at all. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head and said, "I didn't know before. It was really a coincidence. I didn't know my identity before. It wasn't until Beichun saw the Lan family's token on me that I knew I was a member of the Lan family. It wasn't until I came to Tiangang's sect that the sect master saw me for the first time and found out that I looked very similar to my grandmother." Chapter 2854. After listening to everything Bailey Hongzhuang said, Xia Jiqing and the others couldn't help but open their mouths wide, their faces full of surprise. Is there really such a coincidence in this world? Xia Jiqing couldn't help but sigh. "I knew it. You definitely wouldn't lie to me." Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate face evoked a happy arc. "I also think that this matter is too coincidental. Perhaps it is destined. Otherwise, it would be difficult for me to complete all this with my strength." So, Beichun is really not an ordinary person. Not only did he find a sweetheart, but he also found a granddaughter for his master. Dongfang Yu's eyes were filled with amazement. This fate was really ingenious. "The last time I came back was when I rescued my parents from the Yu family. Recently, I have been too busy and haven't had a chance to get along with everyone." Everyone's faces showed a look of understanding. No wonder everyone thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was too busy for more than a year. They couldn't even see her all day. It turned out that she was busy with so many things. "No wonder the last time I saw you, I only felt that you were very tired. It must be very hard to take care of your parents." Xia Jiqing's face showed a bit of regret. "I claim to be your good sister, but I can't help you with anything. In fact, although I don't have much ability, it is not a problem to help you take care of people." Looking at the concern and guilt in Xia Jiqing's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart warmed and said, "My parents are mainly poisoned. I have been busy detoxifying them, so I rarely show up. Let's not talk about me. How have you been?" Bailey Hongzhuang looked at everyone. "You have been in Tiangang's sect for so long, I think you are already very familiar with it, right?" Listening to this, everyone nodded and began to talk about their situation in Tiangang's sect. Compared to when they first came to Tiangang's sect, they were now very familiar with all kinds of things in Tiangang's sect. They were no longer the newest disciples, but began to become senior brothers and sisters. Recently, someone has been chasing Xiao Man. Xia Jiqing joked. "Oh." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and looked at Yuan Xiao Man with interest. It seems that Xiao Man's good news is not far away. Yuan Xiaoman's pretty face turned red as she hurriedly waved her hands. "Boss, don't listen to Jiqing's nonsense. We haven't even started dating yet. There are only 2 strokes in total. If I can write this stroke, won't my progress be very fast?" "Jiqing, stop spouting nonsense." Yuan Xiaoman stepped forward and reached out to scratch Xia Jiqing's armpit. Looking at Xia Jiqing and Yuan Xiaoman, who had already made a mess, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Originally, she was worried that because of Bai Junyu, the relationship between Xia Jiqing and Yuan Xiaoman would become very awkward, but fortunately, the situation did not develop in this direction. After Yuan Xiaoman put down everything, the friendship between the two still existed. In the next second, Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze fell on Gong Xiaoqing and Lu Qingyue. Compared to the liveliness of Xia Jiqing and Yuan Xiaoman, Lu Qingyue was undoubtedly much more quiet. From the beginning until now, Lu Qingyue had been quietly standing beside Gong Xiaoqing. Although there was nothing between the two, Bailey Hongzhuang could guess that Gong Xiaoqing had accepted Lu Qingyue. Chapter 2855. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Dongfang Yu quickly nodded and said, Xiaoqing, this cold guy didn't miss a good opportunity. If Qin Yue ran away like this, he would definitely regret it in the future. Speaking of which, this good brother of mine has contributed a lot. Gong Xiaoqing coldly glanced at Dongfang Yu. His eyes were still as cold as ice that hadn't melted in 10,000 years. If you don't speak, no one will treat you as a mute. Dongfang Yu's face fell. Brother, aren't you burning the bridge too much? If you have the heart to worry about me, you might as well worry about yourself. Gong Xiaoqing was still cold, as if he didn't appreciate it. Whether it was Bailey Hongzhuang or the others, they had long been used to it, and suddenly laughed. Xiaoqing is right, Dongfang. Xiaoqing already has a good match, but you still haven't found a sweetheart. Bai Junyu chuckled. Dongfang Yu raised his head. I'm still young. Why should I be so anxious? You didn't say that to me before. Gong Xiaoqing suddenly said. Gong Xiaoqing really had the ability to make an awkward silence when he opened his mouth, so no one cared. With Dongfang Yu's appearance and ability, there were many people in Tiangang's sect who liked him, so there was no need to worry about him. Hongzhuang, why do I only see you and not the young sect master? Bai Junyu couldn't help but ask. Bailey Hongzhuang faintly smiled. He went to the conference hall with the palace masters and hasn't come back for so long. There should be a lot of things that he hasn't dealt with yet. He will come back after dealing with them. We have all reunited after such a long time. Do you want to celebrate today? Xia Jiqing's eyes lit up. Usually, they were in 4 different palace halls, and there was no convenient place to gather. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang was back, it was naturally different. Master has already ordered people to prepare a banquet tonight. You can rest assured. Xiao He directly jumped onto Bailey Hongzhuang's lap. She had always been the most concerned about food. Xiao He even specially ordered 2 servings of braised pork trotters. Xiao Bai exposed her mercilessly. When Xia Jiqing saw Xiao He, she quickly hugged her and said, Xiao He, you haven't changed at all after so long. You've been eating braised pork trotters for so long, yet you're still not tired of it. Xiao He pursed her lips. Braised pork trotters are the love of my life. Of course I won't get sick of it. Boss, it's not easy for you to raise 3 foodies. Fortunately, your current identity is different from before, so I don't have to worry about you being eaten by these 3 foodies. Yuan Xiaoman shook her head and sighed. As soon as he said that, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but laugh out loud. I was worried about this problem before, but fortunately, it didn't happen. Back then, if it wasn't for her identity as an alchemist, it wouldn't have been easy for her to raise these 3 fellows with her meager income. After you come back this time, you won't be in a hurry to leave again, right? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. I shouldn't, but I will go back to the Lan family from time to time because my parents are there. Chapter 2856. Listening to Xia Jiqing's heartfelt blessings, the warmth in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes deepened. Only when one's loved ones were by one's side could one understand how precious family affection was. Since she crossed over, she had no loved ones by her side. Although she had Deep Beichun, her 3 beasts, and her friend by her side, the feeling of having a loved one was completely different. It was as if the wisp of a ghost that was originally floating here had truly become a person of this world and had completely integrated into this identity. Hongzhuang, we've all benefited from you. Although we might not be able to help you much, just let us know when you need us. We'll definitely help you. Hongzhuang's eyes widened as she said, Hongzhuang, we're your friends. Dongfang Yu stared at Bailey Hongzhuang, his eyes full of sincerity. From knowing Bailey Hongzhuang until now, his thoughts had never changed. Since knowing Bailey Hongzhuang's past, he felt even more distressed. It was no wonder that Bailey Hongzhuang was so mature. It turned out that there were so many things that forced her to mature. In contrast, they thought that they were Bailey Hongzhuang's seniors and had to bear much less than her. As Dongfang Yu's voice fell, Xia Jiqing and the others all nodded. Dongfang is right. We have always been here. At this moment, Deep Beichun slowly walked in from outside the room. Seeing that everyone had gathered together, a smile suddenly appeared on his heroic face. Your speed is really fast. You've already gathered together so quickly. You are all busy people. It is not easy to see you on a normal day. You can only rely on us to take the initiative to come to you. Dongfang Yu said with a smile. Deep Beichun smiled faintly. Hong Zhuang has always been thinking about you. Previously, when I asked her to go to the conference hall with me, she chose to refuse. I knew that she must want to find you first. Listening to Di Beichun's words, the smile on Xia Jiqing and the others' faces deepened. That's natural. We have been through life and death with Hong Zhuang. Xia Jiqing smiled. Di Beichun nodded slightly. When I first came in, I heard you say that if Hong Zhuang needs your help, just say the word. Is that true? Of course it's true. Everyone answered without hesitation. That's great. Di Beichun smiled and looked at Bailey Hong Zhuang, then looked at Xia Jiqing and the others. Now there's really something I need your help with. As soon as these words came out, everyone couldn't help but look at each other, and a strange color appeared on their faces. They didn't think that Bailey Hong Zhuang would need their help. What is it? As long as we can do it, we will definitely not refuse, Gong Shaoqing said slowly. Hong Zhuang and I came back this time to prepare for a big event. Di Beichun's lips were slightly raised, and he looked at the crowd with a smile that was not a smile. Looking at Di Beichun's appearance, Bailey Hong Zhuang couldn't help but smile. Young sect master, don't keep us guessing. Just tell us directly. Xia Jiqing was obviously impatient. Are you trying to make me anxious? Hearing this, Bailey Hong Zhuang couldn't help but chuckle. Xia Jiqing had been in Tiangang's sect for so long, but her temperament hadn't changed at all. Chapter 2857. With Di Beichun's voice falling, Xia Jiqing and the others were all startled and couldn't help but open their mouths wide. Then, a touch of excitement quickly climbed up everyone's faces. Really? You're going to get married? Di Beichun nodded. How can this kind of thing be a joke? Bailey Hong Zhuang also smiled and gave everyone a positive answer. Yes, we came back this time to prepare for the wedding. You have been together for so many years, it's time to get married. Xia Jiqing smiled. This is really a happy event. Dongfang Yu smiled and walked to Di Beichun's side, patted him on the shoulder, and laughed. Brother, you have waited for the clouds to open and the moon to see the moon. Among all of them, Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Beichun had experienced the most. Since before Kangling College, Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Beichun had already been together. Now, they had been in Tiangang's sect for more than a year, and the two of them were finally going to tie the knot. Speaking of which, you have already been married once when you were in Fengbo country. Is this considered a second marriage? Haha. Baijun couldn't help but laugh. However, when Xia Jiqing's eyes swept over, Baijun had consciously put away his smile. I've mistreated Hong Zhuang during the previous wedding. I can't let anything go wrong with the wedding this time. Di Beichun's deep eyes flashed with a bright and firm luster. He would never let his woman suffer the slightest grievance. Hong Zhuang deserved the best of everything. Looking at Di Beichun's affectionate appearance, Xia Jiqing, Lu Qingyue, and Yuan Xiaomin couldn't help but feel envious. The feelings that Di Beichun inadvertently revealed were often the most sincere. Hong Zhuang really found a good man, and any woman would be envious. Such an important thing naturally requires our participation. Young sect master, you can rest assured that as long as you ask us to do something, we will definitely do it one by one. There will be absolutely no mistakes. Xia Jiqing patted her chest, with a look of assurance on her face. Hong Zhuang is my best sister. If you want to treat her badly, you have to see if we agree or not. Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled and blinked. It's great that you have time to help me prepare. This way, you will have experience in the future. Hearing this, Xia Jiqing and the others couldn't help but be stunned. And couldn't help blushing. Hong Zhuang. Xiao He jumped in front of Bailey Hong Zhuang and said, Master is right. Anyway, you will get married sooner or later. It's better to prepare early. The eyes of Dongfang Yu and the others couldn't help but fall on by Junyu. Junyu, in addition to Hong Zhuang, the first to get married should be you and Jiqing. You have a lot of pressure on you, so you have to prepare well. Bai Junyu didn't expect that this problem would suddenly involve him. He couldn't help but subconsciously look at Xia Jiqing. Xia Jiqing, who was already very embarrassed, couldn't help but shout after noticing Bai Junyu's gaze, "What are you looking at me for?" At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had already laughed. Bai Junyu and Xia Jiqing were the most lively couple. When they got married in the future, it would be very lively. Chapter 2858. Don't just talk about me. Why don't you talk about Shaoqing? In comparison, it should be Shaoqing who is more worrying. Bai Junyu raised his eyebrows and looked at Gong Shaoqing and Lu Qinhua. These two guys actually had the nerve to laugh at him. As soon as these words came out, the smiles on Gong Shaoqing and Lu Qinhua's faces also stopped. Junyu is right. Both of you have to study and prepare well. In my opinion, it shouldn't be long before you get married, right? Dongfang Yu's peach blossom eyes were slightly raised, and he said with a smile, "This time when you go home, you can see your parents properly. As for this wedding wine, I won't be tired no matter how far it is." Deep Baichen nodded. Dongfang's words are right. This kind of good thing, we will definitely support it. Hongzhuang, Dongfang doesn't have a partner and can't be controlled. Why don't you take care of your Deep Baichen? Xia Jiqing's face was full of shame, and her cheeks were already red. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled, a hint of playfulness in her eyes. What Baichen said isn't wrong. This is our second marriage, so we're already familiar with it. You'll be getting married soon, so naturally you'll need to learn more. Haha. The laughter continued to spread in the bedroom, and everyone laughed together, as if they had returned to their days at the Tsanglan College. All the identities and gaps had disappeared. The only thing that remained unchanged was the friendship between them. For this banquet, Di Baichen also prepared a very rich wine and dishes. Everyone was drunk and had a great time. The next day, Di Baichen had already begun to prepare for the wedding. He specifically asked the 4 palace masters and the elders to understand what needed to be prepared. However, because the transmission array had not been built yet, no one knew how long it would take to build it. So the auspicious day had not been chosen for the time being. There was still plenty of time. Compared to Di Baichen, who was busy preparing for the wedding, Bailey Hongzhuang was much more relaxed. During this period of time, Bailey Hongzhuang had been busy and did not have enough time to rest. Di Baichen felt sorry for her, so he told her not to interfere with anything and just to relax. Therefore, Bailey Hongzhuang cultivated with Xia Jiqing and others every day, and sometimes went to the vicinity of Tiangang's sect to play, which was very comfortable. This period of time was probably the most relaxing period of time for Bailey Hongzhuang since she had transmigrated. Since Bailey Hongzhuang's identity as the Miss of Tiangang's sect was known by everyone, Bailey Hongzhuang would be saluted by disciples no matter where she went. All the previous doubts and speculations had completely disappeared. She sometimes cultivated and sometimes went to the alchemy palace to refine pills. Among all the palace halls, the disciples of the alchemy palace were the most convinced by Bailey Hongzhuang. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang had used her alchemy skills to conquer all the disciples of the alchemy palace. Half a month later, Situ Yin and Mu Jin's returned to Tiangang's sect together, and this news caused a sensation in Tiangang's sect again. After knowing that Bailey Hongzhuang was Situ Yan's granddaughter, everyone in Tiangang's sect already knew that the Sun Moon Palace Master was Situ Yan's wife. However, no one had ever seen the Sun Moon Palace's Palace Master, so no one knew anything about the past. Chapter 2859. Not for anything else, but because Situ Yin and Mu Jinsei look too young. Oh my god, Sect Master and Madam Sect Master are too young, right? When I saw Sect Master before, he didn't look like this. Maybe after cultivating to the Sect Master's level, he can return to his youth. The reason why we chose the path of cultivation, isn't it to live longer? Looking at it this way, Madam Sect Master and young Miss look very similar. After seeing Mu Jinsei's appearance, Xia Zhiqing and the others also understood the meaning of Bailey Hongzhuang's words. No wonder Sect Master could recognize Bailey Hongzhuang when he saw her. Although Madam Sect Master is very beautiful, I think Hongzhuang is the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. Xia Zhiqing's eyes were bright. When Hongzhuang gets married, she will definitely be the most beautiful bride in the world. Yuan Xiaoman nodded. That's natural before seeing Boss. I didn't think there would be such a beautiful woman, but Boss and young Sect Master together are really not an ordinary match. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang quickly greeted them, their faces full of smiles. Grandfather, grandmother, you are here. Master, Madam Sect Master. Di Beichen bowed and said. C2 Yin smiled slightly. We came here after building the transmission array of the Sun Moon Palace. Your grandfather will take care of the rest of the transmission arrays one by one. We have to come back first to arrange the Tiangang sect. After all, this was the place where the wedding would take place. Yishuan, your parents and master's wife are preparing your dowry and wedding clothes in the Lan family. I have to come to the Tiangang sect to accompany you to decorate the new house. You can stay in the Tiangang sect first. After we have dealt with the matters here, it won't be too late for you to return to the Lan family. Mu Jinsei said with a smile. At this moment, hearing such words again, Bailey Hongzhuang no longer blushed and immediately nodded with a smile. Then I will have to trouble grandfather and grandmother. Silly girl, being able to see you get married is already the happiest thing for us. How can it be considered troublesome? Mu Jin's eyes were gentle as she held onto Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. Thinking back to when your mother got married, I felt the same way. But at that time, I could only attend as her master. It was always a pity. But this time, seeing you get married, I have no regrets. When she said this, Mu Jinsei couldn't help but glare at C2 Yin. If it wasn't for this old man, how could she have caused such regret? C2 Yin also knew that he had let Mu Jinsei down. So when Mu Jinsei mentioned this matter, he couldn't help but feel guilty and embarrassed. What happened back then was all my fault. Please forgive me. Easy for you to say. Is a word of forgiveness enough to make up for all the years of suffering I've suffered? I can't. C2 Yin quickly nodded. Whatever you say, I'll use the rest of my life to make amends. Mu Jins coldly snorted and turned her head away. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other and couldn't help but smile. Who would have thought that the famous Tiangang sect master would be eaten so easily? Chapter 2860. Mu Jinsei walked around Di Beichen's palace and made a decision without hesitation. To tear it down and rebuild it. Grandmother, this palace is still very new and the decorations inside are not bad. There's no need to tear it down and rebuild it, right? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes revealed a trace of surprise. She felt that the decorations here were not bad and only needed to add a few more things. How can that be? Mu Jinsei shook her head. Since it's a marriage, naturally everything must be new. What do you think? Mu Jinsei looked at C2 Yin and Di Beichen. In the next second, C2 Yin and Di Beichen nodded their heads like chickens pecking rice and said firmly, "That's right, tear it down and rebuild it." In order to show that he completely followed Mu Jinsei's thoughts, C2 Yin waved his hand and destroyed half of the palace. This is definitely not a new house. We'll find someone to redesign it and design something that Hongzhuang would like. C2 Yin said with a smile. Di Beichen put his arm around Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder and said, "Wife," when Xiren said that I'm a slave to my wife. However, I feel that compared to Master, I still need to learn more. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but chuckle and hit Di Beichen's chest. You actually dare to mock grandfather. Di Beichen shook his head and said with a serious expression, "I'm not mocking you. I really need to learn from Master. Master has always been my role model." In the following time, Bailey Hongzhuang also witnessed the speed of Di Beichen and the others. It only took them half an hour to tear down the entire palace, and C2 Yin also found the craftsman to rebuild it. Mu Jin-se had been discussing with Bailey Hongzhuang about the various arrangements of the sleeping quarters. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang had married Di Beichen and was now Tiangang sect's young sect master's wife. Normally, she would spend more time in Tiangang sect. As Mu Jin's, Bailey Hongzhuang, and Di Beichen discussed the appearance of the sleeping quarters, the craftsmen began to prepare. There were many people in Tiangang sect, so all of this was done very quickly. Not long after, Bailey Hongzhuang received news that Mu Lingbing and the others had arrived at Tiangang sect. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen went to welcome them, they saw Lan Yinxiao, Mu Lingbing, Yu Linfeng, and Nan Gongwu. Father, mother, master's wife, you've all come. What a pleasant surprise. Bailey Hongzhuang was full of smiles as she quickly went to greet them. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, Lan Yinxiao, and the others all smiled at the same time. The transportation array from the Lan family to Tiangang sect has already been built. We just happen to take this opportunity to check if there are any problems with the array before coming over to take a look. Lan Yinxiao smiled. You've come at the right time. Mu Jins also slowly walked over. We've already rebuilt the sleeping quarters for Yishuan and Beichen's wedding. You can go take a look and see what you think. Is there anything else that needs to be reorganized? Hearing this, Lan Yunxiao and the others all nodded. That's great. We'll go take a look at how you're doing. Hongzhuang, your mother and I personally made your wedding dress. We came this time to let you see if you're satisfied with it. We'll also let you try it on and see if there's anything that needs to be changed. Chapter 2861. When a woman gets married, the wedding dress is the most important. Naturally, we have to prepare it for you. Mu Lingbing held Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, her eyes filled with love. We're not very clear on what you like, so we've been discussing and making the wedding dress. Originally, we were going to come find you before the transportation array was completed. Now that it's finished, we immediately came over. Let's go take a look at the bedchamber first. We'll talk about other matters later. Nan Gongwu smiled. In the end, under Lan Yunxiao and the others' comments, they added quite a few opinions. However, the matter of the bedchamber was finally resolved. With Tiangang sect's craftsmen's speed, it wouldn't take long for them to finish repairing it. That night, Lan Yunxiao and the others were drinking to their heart's content, while Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were trying on the wedding dress in the room. Looking at the bright red wedding dress, Bailey Hongzhuang gently rubbed her right hand. Her mother had specially made every stitch for her, and it was filled with motherly love. The instant Bailey Hongzhuang tried on the wedding dress, Mu Jin's, Mu Lingbing, and Nan Gongwu were all stunned. Her skin was as white as snow and sparkling like jade. Paired with the bright red wedding dress, Bailey Hongzhuang appeared even more noble and otherworldly. There wasn't the slightest bit of vulgarity, but it added a bit of charm to her original temperament. Even though they were all women, the three of them couldn't help but feel suffocated when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang. She was truly too beautiful. This is truly the most beautiful bride I've ever seen. Nan Gongwu's face could not hide the amazement on her face. Even though she had already thought that with Bailey Hongzhuang's outstanding appearance, she would definitely be very beautiful when she wore the wedding dress. But when she really saw it, she still felt that this beauty was beyond their imagination. Mu Jin's and Mu Lingbing also stared blankly at Bailey Hongzhuang with unconcealable joy and adoration in their eyes. Yishuan, you're truly mother's pride. Mu Lingbing couldn't stop smiling. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang like this, as a mother, she felt an indescribable sense of pride. Di Beichen has really picked up a treasure. Mu Jin-se sighed. If he dares to mistreat Yixian in the future, I will skin him alive. When he said that, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two could not help but laugh. In detail, Bailey Hongzhuang's current status was really extraordinary. If Di Beichen dared to treat her badly, he would be attacked by everyone. The pressure was really not small. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Mu Jin-se in front of her. With Mu Jin-se's youthful appearance, it was hard to associate her with her grandmother. Mother, I have an idea. Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look at Mu Lingbing. She had discussed this with Di Beichun before coming up with this idea. What thoughts? Chapter 2862. Mu Jinsei clearly hadn't expected Bailey Hongzhuang to make such a suggestion. She couldn't help but stare blankly as she hurriedly waved her hands and said, I'm already so old. If I were to get married at this time, wouldn't I become a laughingstock? How would this become a laughingstock? Mu Lingbing hurriedly interjected. The sect master of the Heavenly Dipper sect and the palace master of the Sun Moon Palace are getting married. This is an extremely sensational matter. Furthermore, with your and father's looks, there's nothing wrong with it at all. Lingbing is right. Otherwise, and he wouldn't have followed uncle without any status. Nangong Wu quickly added, the lifespan of a cultivator was much longer than that of an ordinary person. Although there weren't many people who got married at Mu Jinsei's age, there were still quite a number of them. It wasn't strange at all. Mu Jinsei waved her hands. No way. If this were to spread, we would definitely become a laughingstock. Mine Situ's daughter is already so old. Now that our granddaughter is about to get married, how could we not become a laughingstock if the two of us get involved? Mother, the reason why you and father have missed each other for so many years is all because of you Siqing. If it wasn't for her, the two of you would have gotten married 40 years ago. Now that everything has changed, why should we care about what others think? As long as we're happy, it's fine. Furthermore, with our current status and position, who would dare laugh at us? Mu Lingbing turned around to look at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, Yishuan, you're so considerate. We've actually forgotten such an important matter. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. Grandmother, I think our suggestion is very good. Don't worry about anything else. This is a wedding that should belong to you and grandfather. It's just that we've come a little too late. Don't say any more. I won't agree. Mu Jinsei's attitude was firm. I'm already so old now, and I don't care about such things anymore. I know you're doing this for our own good, but there's really no need for this matter. Just as Mu Jinsei finished speaking, Siti Yan's voice rang out from outside the room. Who said there's no need? I said there's a need. As soon as he said this, Mu Jinsei's expression couldn't help but change. Then, the door was opened. Siti Yan, Lan Yinshao, Yulin Feng, and Di Beichun walked in together. Di Beichun gave Bailey Hongzhuang a meaningful glance, and Bailey Hongzhuang immediately understood. They had already discussed it earlier and decided to bring it up today. Therefore, when Bailey Hongzhuang suggested it, Di Beichun also voiced his idea. Situ, what nonsense are you spouting? Mu Jinsei frowned as a trace of annoyance appeared on her face. I'm sorry for what happened in the past. I made you suffer for so many years. Now that we are together, this wedding is naturally necessary. Beichun can't wrong Hongzhuang, but how can I wrong you? Following Situ Yan's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest couldn't help but give him a thumbs up in their hearts. This was a real man. You shameless old man. Our granddaughter is about to get married. With our seniority, why are we blindly meddling here? How can this be considered meddling? At most, it's adding joy to joy. Situ Yan looked at everyone. Don't you all agree? Yes. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest replied. Chapter 2863. I can't be bothered with you. Even if you don't want your old face, I still want mine. Mu Jinsei's stubborn expression did not change. Although she had fantasized about marriage many times when she was young, as she grew older, she gradually let go of the idea. Now, whether it was her or Situ Yan, they were both 60 years old. Even if their appearances did not show it, those who knew them would know. If this suggestion was brought up on a normal day, it would be fine. But now, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were about to get married. As maternal grandparents, they were the elders. Once this news spread, everyone would think that they were shameless and wanted to get married before their granddaughter. Most importantly, wouldn't this mean that everyone in the world would know that they had given birth to a child without any status? This was not something she wanted to see. Seeing Mu Jinsei's stubborn appearance, Situ Yan also sighed. Although he and Mu Jin-se had been separated for so many years because of a misunderstanding, he understood Mu Jin-se's personality very well, whether it was from his past memories or today's interactions. You care too much about what other people think. At that time, he was indeed ignorant. He did not even know who the person he was with was. But if Mu Jin-se's personality had been a little stronger and more honest, they would not have been taken advantage of by Yu Siqing and missed for so many years. If only Mu Jin-se had a little more confidence in herself, as long as she had let him know the slightest bit of news, they would have been able to reunite sooner. Hearing Si Tu-yan's words, Mu Jin-se's expression changed a little. But she remained stubborn. So what? How can a person not care about what other people think when they live in this world? If you didn't feel guilty towards Yu Siqing, would you have treated me like that? Hearing this, Si Tu-yan's eyes darkened. That's right, a person living in this world cannot do as they please. There are many things that need to be considered. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others saw that Si Tu-yan and Mu Jin-se had a conflict because of this matter, they could not help but frown. This was not what they wanted to see. After all, the knot in her heart for so many years could not be completely untied in a short period of time. Sometimes it would erupt, but they believed that as they spent more time together, the resentment in Mu Jin-se's heart would gradually dissipate. At the very least, it was undoubtedly much better than when they had first met at Sun Moon Palace. Mother, why are you bringing this up all of a sudden? Mu Lingbing sat down beside Mu Jin-se. Isn't father saying this because he doesn't want to treat you unfairly? You should be happy. The originally tense atmosphere gradually eased with Mu Lingbing's words, and Mu Jin-se clearly felt that the words she had just blurted out were not appropriate. She couldn't help but say, I understand that you all have good intentions, but we cannot wash our dirty linen in public. I do not wish for the matter of the past to be known by the world. As Mu Jin-se's voice fell, everyone understood her concerns. To a man, this was not a problem. However, to a woman, this was something she was absolutely unwilling to accept. Chapter 2864. Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard this. This was undoubtedly the best way to compromise. As long as her family was present, Mu Jin-se didn't need to worry about this news being spread. Being able to fulfill her previous regrets was undoubtedly the best outcome. Mu Jin-se, who was originally resolute, hesitated after hearing Di Beichen's words, but she didn't immediately refuse. Seeing the change in Mu Jin-se's expression, Si Tu-yan understood a little. Which woman wouldn't want a wedding? Just this matter alone was enough for him to treat Mu Jin-se unfairly. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest looked at each other. It seemed like there was a chance. It's getting late. You must be tired from rushing all the way here. Why don't you go back and rest early? Si Tu-yan quietly gave everyone a look. They immediately understood and nodded. We are indeed a little tired. Then we'll go back and rest first. Hongzhuang, let's send father-in-law and mother-in-law back to their residence. Okay. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest quickly left the room, leaving only Si Tu-yan and Mu Jin-se in the room. Grandmother has already agreed. With grandfather's ability, it shouldn't be a problem to convince grandmother, right? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her brows and looked at Di Beichen. Di Beichen's beautiful thin lips hooked up, his handsome face filled with a sunny smile. Back then, there were countless women who liked Master. It can be seen from how Master's wife liked Master for so many years without letting go. Although Master usually acts like a slave to his wife, it definitely won't be a problem to convince Master's wife. Don't worry. Lan Yunxiao turned to Bailey Hongzhuang behind him. Yixuan, you don't need to worry about this matter. You only need to think about how to handle your grandfather and grandmother's wedding. Hearing this, Mu Lingbing chuckled. Don't look at how your grandmother keeps saying that she's not young anymore. In fact, her heart is still the same as before. There hasn't been any change. In that case, everyone can't leave Tiangang's sect for a while. We have to finish this matter first. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Her dark and clear eyes were filled with a bright and warm smile. If her grandfather and grandmother could hold a wedding, they would be a legitimate couple in the future. Their relationship would undoubtedly be more harmonious. That's right. Fortunately, we don't have anything to do right now. We only need to prepare for your two weddings. Lan Yinxiao's smile was bright and bright. His originally elegant and graceful face now had a trace of warmth. Linfeng, I think we need to make a trip back to Limitless Palace. Nangong Wu suddenly said. Yu Linfeng raised his eyebrows and looked at Nangong Wu, silently asking for the reason. With our relationship with Hong Zhuang, Ling Bing, and the others, we will often visit Tiangang's sect and Lan clan. Wouldn't it be troublesome if we don't build a teleportation array? Let's take advantage of this opportunity to build a teleportation array. It will be much more convenient in the future. Nangong's words are correct. I originally wanted to tell you about this matter, but I was thinking about the wedding and forgot about it. Mu Lingbing nodded. Chapter 2865. If that's the case, then we'll be completely connected in the future. Yu Linfeng laughed despite himself. Lan Yinxiao placed a hand on Yu Linfeng's shoulder. What? You're not willing? I'm willing. How could I not be willing? The next day, everything went as everyone expected. CTN directly informed everyone that he and Mu Jints will be holding an internal wedding in Tiangang's sect. Very few people would be attending, and only their own family would be present. Mu Jints didn't come out. She was clearly embarrassed by this matter. Di Beichun, Hong Zhuang, I'll have to trouble you to postpone your wedding a little, CTN slowly said. Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Beichun quickly waved their hands. Grandfather, what are you saying? Master, according to the order of first come, first served, it should be you and Master's wife who get married first. Di Beichun's eyes were filled with a hint of a playful smile. They did not dare to overtake him. You stinking brat. You even dare to laugh at your master now. Master, I'm happy for you. Di Beichun chuckled, but his eyes were filled with sincerity. In the past, he often felt that his master was unhappy. For so many years, no one else had been by his master's side. His master had raised him since he was young, so he had long regarded his master as his grandfather. Ever since Hong Zhuang's identity was revealed, this was the first time he saw his master so happy. This kind of life was what his master truly wanted. CTN's gaze softened. He had watched Di Beichun grow up, so how could he not be clear about Di Beichun's thoughts? In the future, we master and disciple must live well. We're a real family now. Di Beichun nodded and chuckled. It seems that when Master adopted me, it was also fated. Seeing Di Beichun like this, CTN's gaze couldn't help but gradually change. A trace of emotion appeared in the depths of his eyes. When he first found Di Beichun, he discovered that this child constitution was extremely good. As long as he cultivated well, he would definitely become a great talent in the future. Not only that, when he was young, Di Beichun's appearance was already extremely outstanding. Anyone who saw him would like him. He really couldn't understand why Di Beichun's parents would abandon him. The place he found Di Beichun wasn't in the secular world. Logically speaking, Di's parents were also talented cultivators. Even if there was a reason why he couldn't raise such an excellent child, there would definitely be people who would be willing to accept him as a disciple if he were to hand him over to other forces. Why would they choose to abandon him? He really couldn't understand it. Over the years, although he had inquired around the area many times, he had not received any news. If at Di Beichun's wedding, his parents could also come to attend, then there would be no regrets. What a pity. Nangong Wu and Yu Linfeng took the lead to return to Limitless Palace to arrange the construction of the transportation array. Bailey Hongzhuang and Mu Lingbing began to prepare Mu Jin's wedding dress. These seemingly tedious matters were extremely joyful when they were doing them. Happiness comes after suffering. This was the feeling. Di Beichun, Lan Yinxiao, and CTN were in charge of arranging and purchasing. Of course, they mainly listened to Mu Lingbing and the other two's instructions. They were happy every day. Chapter 2866. Today was the day of Si Tu-yin and Mu Jin's wedding. Even in Tiangang's sect, other than the 5 palace masters and a few elders, no one else knew about this matter. Everything was done according to Mu Jin's idea. It was simple but exquisite, and every decoration revealed a bit of warmth. Sect Master, after so many years, we finally see that you have a place to settle down. In the past, we were always worried that you would die alone, but now it seems that our worries were unnecessary. Qin Ai's face was full of smiles. Although he and Si Tu-yin usually had the relationship of a palace master and sect master, they were also very good friends in private. Ha, isn't that so? Gu Jingqing laughed loudly. Actually, sect master has always been ahead of us. Now that you have so many children and grandchildren, how could you possibly die alone? You really hit it too well. Yin Kaicheng and Qi Han also sighed. Sect master, you hid it from us too bitterly. We must get back at you for this. Today we must get you drunk. Si Tu-yin was wearing a bright red wedding robe. His young face was handsome and determined. Listening to Yin Kaicheng and the others, the smile on his face deepened. Ha! With your alcohol tolerance, you won't get me drunk? Sect master is looking down on the few of us. Qi Han's face stiffened. Just based on these words, we have to fight for our dignity tonight. Looking at the elders at this moment, the smiles on Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' faces couldn't help but deepen. They could all see that the palace masters and elders were sincerely happy for Si Tu-yin. As good brothers, they had advised Si Tu-yin many times over the years, hoping that he could find a partner so that he wouldn't be lonely in the future. However, later on, they also knew that it wasn't that Si Tu-yin was unwilling to find a partner, but that he already had someone in his heart. Now that Si Tu-yin had finally found the person he had been waiting for, how could everyone not be happy for him? Gu Jinghe looked at the harmonious scene in front of her, and the smile on her face never disappeared. Mu Jin's many years of waiting and sacrifice had not been in vain. Looking at Mu Jin's family in front of her, and thinking about Mu Jin's lonely life, Gu Jinghe felt very touched. While smiling brightly, her eyes could not help but tear up. In-law, congratulations to you today. Lan Hongtai smiled and congratulated. In the past, he didn't understand the situation between Si Tu-yin and Mu Jinsei, but now he completely understood. He really didn't think that Yu Siqing's heart could be so vicious. Just because of her own feelings, she had harmed 3 generations of Mu Jinsei's family. Now that Si Tu-yin and Mu Jinsei were able to tie the knot, this kind of relationship was not easy. In-law, I didn't expect you to have time to come today. Thank you very much, Si Tu-yin said with a smile. How could I not come to such a joyous occasion? Lan Hongtai said with a smile. We'll be a family in the future. I hope we can keep in touch. Of course. Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichen looked at each other and said, I'll go in first to see if grandmother is ready. Today, she will definitely amaze everyone. Deep Beichen nodded. Usually, Master's wife is already the most beautiful person in Master's eyes. Today is naturally even more so. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and quickly walked into the bedroom. Si Tu-yin was outside chatting with everyone. Chapter 2867. Not long after, Bailey Hongzhuang came out and smiled like a fairy. The bride is coming out. Everyone get ready. Once she said that, Si Tu-yin and the others stopped talking and turned to look behind them. In the next second, Mu Jinsei, dressed in a bright red wedding dress, with a phoenix crown on her head and a bridal veil over her head, slowly appeared in front of everyone. The bright red wedding dress was extremely bright, with a phoenix pattern woven from golden thread printed on it. It was gorgeous and affectionate, and through the veil, one could faintly see Mu Jinsei's snow-white skin and bright and beautiful appearance. The moment he saw Mu Jinsei, Si Tu-yin felt his heart tremble. Even though he could only vaguely see her face, the corners of his lips could not help but overflow with a smile. His hands under his robes faintly trembled. After waiting for so many years, He had finally waited for the day when Mu Jinsei would become his wife. For the sake of this day, he had endured so many disappointment and loneliness over the past few decades. But now, looking at Mu Jinsei, he felt that everything was enough. The sound of firecrackers had already started to ring outside the chambers. The bright red firecrackers were accompanied by a crisp sound as they congratulated Si-Tu Yin and Mu Jinsei. Sect Master, the madam has already come out. What are you still standing here a daze for? If you want to look, you'll have plenty of chances tonight. Qin Ai looked at the dazed Si-Tu Yin and could not help but urge him. Once she said that, the smiles on Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' faces deepened. Although Si-Tu Yin and Mu Jinsei already had a child, the two of them were still like lovers who had just fallen in love. Everywhere was filled with sweetness. Under the bridal veil, Mu Jinsei could not help but smile. Thinking back, when she had just gotten together with Si-Tu Yin had also looked like a fool. After Qin Ai's reminder, Si-Tu Yin finally reacted and quickly walked to Mu Jinsei's side and held the latter's hand. Mu Jinsei's body stiffened for a moment before she relaxed and allowed Si-Tu Yin to lead her to the front. First bow to the heavens and earth. Si-Tu Yin and Mu Jinsei turned around and bowed deeply to the heavens and earth outside. Second, bow to the elders. Although Si-Tu Yin and Mu Jinsei's parents were no longer around, this ceremony was still carried out. It was to let their parents in the underworld know that they had found their other halves, and there was no need to worry about them. Husband and wife, bow to each other. Si-Tu Yin and Mu Jinsei stood face to face and bowed to each other. Gu Jinghe looked at Mu Jins, who was standing next to Si-Tu Yin, and the tears in her eyes finally flowed down. In the past, Mu Jinsei had suffered too much. Now that she had finally found happiness, she couldn't help but feel happy for her good friend. The faces of Qin Ai and the rest were also filled with emotions. Their relationship had gone through too many ups and downs. Now that they had finally tied the knot, it was truly gratifying. Mu Lingbing's eyes couldn't help but redden. This was her father and mother. Because of a misunderstanding, she had always thought that she was an orphan. Now that she saw her parents together, how could she not be moved? Lan Yinxiao reached out and pulled Mu Lingbing into his embrace, his eyes filled with comfort and understanding. He patted Mu Lingbing's shoulder. This is a joyous occasion. Mu Lingbing nodded, but she still could not control her tears. Chapter 2868. The ceremony is complete. The sound of firecrackers rang out once again. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others began to applaud as well. Their faces were filled with joyous smiles. They clapped until their hands hurt, but they did not feel anything. Haha, congratulations, congratulations. A good match is made in heaven. Even though the process of this wedding was very simple, it was very heartwarming. In everyone's eyes, this was a very meaningful ceremony. Si-Tu Yin held Mu Jin's hand tightly and wanted to send her back to her room. However, before he could take a step, Qin Ai and the others' voices rang out. Sect Master, we've agreed that we won't rest until we're drunk today. As long as you don't get us drunk, don't even think about running away. It's a rare opportunity like this. If we don't grab hold of it today, we won't have another chance in the future. Don't worry, the madam won't be able to run away. Gu Jingqing and the others burst into laughter. As good brothers, they wanted to share in Si-Tu Yin's joy. It would be a pity if they didn't make a scene on such a great day. Si-Tu Yin's footsteps paused when he heard Qin Ai and the others' words. A sense of helplessness appeared on his face as he said, "Wait here. I'll send my madam back to her room first. I'll make all of you drunk later. Then we'll be waiting. Don't take this opportunity to run away. Otherwise, we'll have to make a scene in the bridal chamber. Do as you see fit, haha." Lan Hongtai and the others chuckled as well. It looks like Qin Ai and the others have no intention of letting Si-Tu Yin off today. You old fellows, don't even think about running away after you've drunk too much. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at Deep Bei Chun and smiled. Bei Chun, have you prepared enough wine today? Di Baichen nodded and lowered his voice to speak into Bailey Hongzhuang's ear. Master had anticipated that the palace master and the others would not let go of this opportunity, so he had specially instructed me to prepare more strong wine. I prepare enough wine. Even if they're all bulls, they'll be drunk. Strong liquor? Bailey Hongzhuang was flabbergasted. Based on the five hall master's attitude, I'm afraid they definitely won't let grandfather off. This wine is even strong wine. Wouldn't that mean? Di Bei Chun waved his hand. You still don't understand master's drinking capacity. The reason why the palace lords are so strongly demanding today is because every time we drink, it is master who drinks all of them. They usually didn't want to talk about it because they felt it was too embarrassing. However, I had seen it several times, so I knew it clearly. Master told me to prepare strong wine so that we can drink them all down and deal with them as soon as possible. After all, today is such a joyous day. We can't keep being blocked outside. As he finished speaking, the narrowness in Di Baichen's eyes became more and more obvious. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but glare at Di Baichen. In her mind, she was secretly admiring her grandfather's wisdom. However, she didn't expect her grandfather's capacity for liquor to be so formidable. The palace masters probably didn't have a chance to make a comeback. Eldagu, we've prepared quite a few good dishes and wine. Let's go have a taste together. Lan Yanxiao looked towards Gu Jinghe. She was Mu Jin's best friend. Since Mu Jin's couldn't properly entertain her today, they had to entertain her well. Chapter 2869. Situ Yin returned after sending Mu Jin Sei back to her room. Dressed in a bright red robe, he looked very high-spirited as he immediately walked in front of the five palace lords. You guys better think this through. If you drink with me today and want to run away like last time, I won't let you off so easily. Hearing Si Tian's arrogant words, the five hall masters expressed their strong dissatisfaction. Secmaster, your tone is getting bigger and bigger. When have we ever drunk and run away? That's right, the five of us will definitely make you drunk today. The bridegroom has already spoken. If we don't make him drunk today, we'll lose face. Lan family head, you should join us too. We have to drink with the bridegroom. Without waiting for Lan Hongtai to express his opinion, he was warmly pulled over by the five hall masters. Although he didn't know how Si Tian had drunk with the five hall masters in the past, he could vaguely feel it. He originally didn't want to join them, but after drinking a few cups, he completely blended in. Just like that, the famous figures of the Shengxian continent began to boast about their glorious past. Di Baichen, Lan Yanxiao, and Yulin Feng were also pulled into the drinking party. Along with Si Tuyin and the others, they began to talk about the various things that had happened in the past few years. Among them, Di Baichen was undoubtedly the most embarrassed. Whether it was Si Tian or the hall masters, they had all watched him grow up. Thus, they were very clear about the various bad things he had done when he was young. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others sat at another table, eating and drinking. Unlike the other table, they chatted happily with each other. Yishuan, we've already set the date for your wedding. It'll be on the 8th of next month. Starting tomorrow, we'll start sending out invitations. Mu Lingbing's face was full of smiles. Good things happen one after another. Bailey Hongzhuang's wedding was the first to be prepared. Lan Hongtai's arrival this time also brought them good news. The transportation array had already been completed, so the wedding wasn't far away. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and said, Mother, do as you see fit. That's true. We will prepare for these things. Mu Lingbing reached out and stroked Bailey Hongzhuang's silky hair, her expression kind and gentle. You just have to be a beautiful bride on the day. What happened next was just like what Di Baichen had told Bailey Hongzhuang earlier. As expected, Situ Yin once again knocked out the five hall masters with a drink. Even though the five temple masters were still clamoring to continue drinking, everyone knew that they were already drunk to the point where they couldn't even tell north from south. Even Lan Hongtai was not spared and collapsed on the table. In the end, Di Baichen and Lan Yanxiao were responsible for sending them back. As for when they would be able to wake up after drinking such strong alcohol, that was another matter altogether. Compared to the 5 hall masters who were as drunk as mud, Situ Yan's terrifying alcohol tolerance was displayed. His face was slightly red, but he didn't show any signs of drunkenness. It was obvious that he was still at ease. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were full of admiration. This level of alcohol tolerance wasn't something an ordinary person could compare to. However, they didn't know that the reason why Situ Yan could drink so much was because he had been drinking alone for so many years. Chapter 2870. I'll go take a look at Jean Say. Situ Yan walked down from the table. Facing the gazes of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, he was a little embarrassed. It was Situ Yan's first time getting married, so he couldn't stay calm. "Grandfather, don't forget to drink the wine with grandmother." Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Situ Yan nodded and gave Bailey Hongzhuang an understanding look. "Don't worry." Seeing Situ Yan slowly walk into the bridal chamber, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other and smiled. From today onwards, Tiangang's sect officially had a sect master's wife. This relationship that had been entangled for 40 years finally had a beautiful ending. The next day, when Bailey Hongzhuang and the others saw Situ Yan and Mu Jinsei, they could clearly feel that the relationship between the two had become closer. Mu Jinsei's gaze towards Situ Yan couldn't help but reveal some true feelings. In fact, although Situ Yan and Mu Jinsei had liked each other for many years and even had a child together, the time they had truly been together was extremely short. Back then, they had only stayed at the stage of having their hearts connected. Their true relationship as a couple was extremely rare. Now, the two could be said to be a true newlywed. They were stuck together like glue. It was just that they were embarrassed to show it in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other juniors. Compared to Situ Yan, who was flushed with success, the 5 palace masters were still drunk. According to Di Beichen's judgment, they wouldn't be able to wake up until 3 days later as the invitations were sent out one by one. The news of Tiangang's sect's young sect master and Limitless Palace's young palace master's marriage quickly spread throughout the entire Shengxian continent. All the major forces received the news immediately. The relationship between Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang was gradually known by everyone during the Battle of Zhuolu. Now that the news of the marriage was spread, everyone couldn't help but sigh. Once Tiangang's sect and Limitless Palace unite, this force really can't be underestimated in the future. Don't forget that young Palace Master Bailey still has the Lan family and the Sun Moon Palace behind him. With these 4 forces working together, who in the entire Shengxian continent can go against them? We must go and congratulate him on such a joyous occasion. Such sensational news instantly became a hot topic among the people of the major forces. More people were envious and looked up to them. Many young women's hearts were broken when they knew that Di Beichen was going to get married. Di Beichen had always been the Prince Charming in everyone's mind. Many people tried their best to squeeze into Tiangang's sect just to find an opportunity to have a relationship with Di Beichen. Now that Di Beichen was about to get married, and the other party was the extremely noble Bailey Hongzhuang, everyone's wishful thinking disappeared in an instant. This could be said to be the most anticipated wedding in the entire Shengxian continent. There was no one who didn't know about it. Even the small dynasties controlled by the major forces couldn't help but hear such sensational news. When the people of Fengbo country found out that the young palace master of Limitless Palace was named Bailey Hongzhuang, everyone couldn't help but feel surprised. This was because this name was exactly the same as the name of the first daughter of the imperial city's General Bailey's family. Chapter 2871. When they were at the Azure Water School, Bailey Hongzhuang had already revealed her extraordinariness. What he didn't expect was that Di Beichen was actually the young lord of Tiangang's sect. Thinking of all the things he used to tease Di Beichen, his forehead couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. It was no wonder that even though Di Beichen's legs were crippled, he still had a calm and relaxed appearance when he saw him. He was just a mere crown prince of a dynasty. What was he in front of a young lord of Tiangang's sect? As long as he casually said a word, the entire Fengbo country could change dynasties. Emperor Xianyuan Yutian and Empress Jiang Jinying were also scared to death. Di Baichen had restored his previous identity. Recalling their previous actions, they could only hope that Di Baichen didn't have any thoughts of taking revenge on them. Otherwise, they would really die without a burial place. After Bailey Jintao learned of this news, he was first shocked, then he felt a strong, lingering fear. Bailey Hongzhuang wasn't his biological daughter. This was something he only found out later. But who could tell him why Bailey Hongzhuang, who had such a powerful background, would become his daughter? Now, his heart was full of regret. Such a great opportunity. If he had treated Bailey Hongzhuang well in the past, then he would have had a meteoric rise now. As the young palace master of Limitless Palace, he could enjoy endless glory, splendor, and wealth just by having this identity to cover him. Unfortunately, such a good opportunity was destroyed by himself in the end. Such a big news naturally couldn't be concealed. Not long after, the people of Fengbo country understood that this Bailey Hongzhuang was the Bailey Hongzhuang. The two were the same person, and Di Baichen was their former Prince Chun. For a time, the entire imperial city was in a complete uproar. The people of Fengbo country were all shocked. Godly Dr. Squares Du Tianxuo, Dong Sairu, and Ji Wenbin were completely dumbfounded after hearing this news. They hadn't heard any news of Bailey Hongzhuang for several years. They also knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had been completely disappointed in Fengbo country. The possibility of her returning was very small, but they still couldn't help but have some expectations in their hearts. However, they never thought that the next time they would hear news of Bailey Hongzhuang would be under such circumstances. The existence that people looked up to turned out to be Miss Bailey, who had always been by their side. Du Tianxuo and Dong Sairu finally understood. Bailey Hongzhuang had such ability at such a young age. Why she didn't put the wealth of godly Dr. Square in her eyes? In fact, even if it was the entire country of Fengbo, Bailey Hongzhuang had never put in her eyes. After hearing this news, Bailey Hongzhuang Emperor Bailey Hongzhuang School. Since Bailey Hongzhuang and the others passed the examination and successfully entered the sect, they had become legends of Azure Water School. Even the new students knew their names. Many students idolized them and only hoped that they could pass the examination like them and become a disciple of the sect. However, the true identity of Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Baichen was no different from a heavy bomb that exploded in everyone's heart. This was really too shocking. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.